What's up? What's up, internets? How's it going, man? My name is April Samuels. I'm a drummer out of Dallas, Texas, a breast cancer survivor, and the founder of Breast Cancer Can Stick It. Thanks for watching on whatever platform you're on tonight. We're happy to be streaming to multiple platforms this evening. This is our second broadcast to do it this way, too. Super excited. Tonight, we got a great lineup. Coming up about 7:30, we're going to have Jill. She is a breast cancer survivor. And then around 8:15 Central Time, we're going to have Rod Morgenstein. So all you drummers out there, I know you guys are pumped about this. Rod Morgenstein, drummer from the Dixie Dregs and also from Winger. He's a legend. Super excited to have him here this evening. So be sure to bring your questions. Whatever platform you're watching on, please post your questions for either of these folks. You can post them now. You can post them later. Whatever you want. We'll keep track of them. And we'll be sure to ask those questions for you. All right, so check it out. Tonight's kind of exciting because I have not started fundraising yet for Drumathon, but we've already raised $20,000. So we have a bunch of folks fundraising, and I'm going to take a second and give a shout out actually to a couple of the people who are our top fundraisers. I like to do stuff kind of on the fly, so why not? 1 second, I'll tell you guys. I know that Max Strohs is one of the top fundraisers for sure. He's actually on our board of directors, but he does a fundraiser every year called Sunday Fund Day, and he raised a bunch of funds for that. And I know he's raised over like 5,000, I think, so far. Let me go check, and I will tell you. Super stoked, man. Okay, I'm going to look at the leaderboard. Here we are. So we topped over $20,000 in funds raised today. And just so you guys know, the funds we raise here at Breast Cancer Can Stick It go towards mammograms, research and trials, and for financial assistance for breast cancer treatment. So be sure to donate through Drumathon. This is our largest annual event. It is coming up November the 2nd at Legacy Hall in Plano, Texas. You can fundraise from anywhere on the planet, and if you're one of the top 3 fundraisers, we will send you your prizes. So we have a lot of drum prizes available for the top 3 fundraisers, and this year we have another couple of cool things. So normally every year, the top fundraisers who raise over $250 get to play a drum solo at Drumathon for 1 minute. And then they also get half off Drum with a Celebrity time during the show. So during the show, we're going to have celebrity drummers. We're going to be announcing them all very, very soon. And you can get up on a second drum set and play alongside a celebrity drummer. The other thing that we added this year is if you raise over $500, you get admission to our exclusive celebrity drum clinic at Rockstars of Tomorrow in Frisco, Texas. So be sure to do that. We did announce who the celebrity drum clinicians are. We're going to have Lori Peters from Skillet. We're going to have Keo Stroud from Big and Rich. He's also with Richard Marx and Rodney Crowdwell. And then we also have Johnny Kelly from Quiet Riot, Danzig, and Typo Negative. And then local clinician David Walters will be there as well. So be sure to sign up to fundraise at drumathon.org/register, drumathon.org/register. Okay, back to my fundraising though. So normally I do like a bunch of crazy stuff, and you guys are more than welcome to pop some ideas in the comments of some crazy stuff you'd like to see me do this year to raise funds. Post anything you want. I'll tell you a few things I've done in the past. So 1 year I did a thing where I did $20 for 20 squats. And there was actually a person who said that they would donate up to $1,000 for as many squats as I could do. So it was like $1 a squat. And if I did like 700 squats, they'd give me 700. If I did 1,000, they'd give me 1,000. So I got one of those little like umpire ticker things to count and keep track of how many squats I was doing so that I could do a Facebook Live at the same time while still counting. So I did a Facebook Live and I did over 1,000 squats and raised over $1,000 for my fundraising page. So that was a lot of fun. Another thing that I did one year is I actually pulled out my prom dress from high school and I did a lip sync to, what song was it? We are strong. Heartache to heartache, we stand. It's like Pat Benatar, I think. Love is a Battlefield. Love is a Battlefield. So I did that song wearing my 1987 very classy prom dress, lip synced it here in the studio with some flashing lights and some fun things. So we raised a certain amount of money and I did that. So I've worn my prom dress into the grocery store to go shopping. I've dressed up as one of those big inflatable dinosaurs and gone to the grocery store and gone to the mall. I've done all kinds of crazy stuff. So pop your ideas for me for fundraising into the comments. Let me know what you think. But for right now, we're going to talk about donating to my fundraising page. You guys are going to help me slay dragons tonight. I haven't gotten started, and there are several people ahead of me. I started to tell you who. Let me do that now. One sec. All right, Jennifer Tatum is in the lead with 5,000. That's who had the 5,000 is Jennifer Tatum. Max Strohs is in second place with just under 3,000. Chip Ritter, Team Ritter, man. If you have been watching Chip Ritter, he's the juggling drummer. He can juggle 3 drumsticks while he's drumming. He was also featured on Superhuman Tricks on David Letterman years ago. He's raising a ton of funds. He's raised $2,665. Chip, you rock. TSB drummer is at 1,415. Roxy Girl is at 1,120. Twitch Shaver is at 975, and Bobby is at 860. So we're stopped there. Those are the top 5 or so fundraisers right now. I am only at $165 because I haven't done one thing to fundraise yet. So tonight, you guys are going to help me fundraise, and what we're going to do is I have a snare drum here, and I do something called a prayer circle. So basically, you're going to go to this page. I'm going to pull it up on the screen right now so you can check it out. And we should have the link in the comments here in just a second so you can click on that and check it out from there. Make sure I'm still talking and you can still hear me. It looks like you can. So this is where you're going to want to go. The link should be in the comments below. Click on that link and it's going to take you to this page. On this page, you're going to go ahead and select the option for the name added to Prayer Circle. For every $20 you donate, I will add one name to the prayer circle. Okay, so this is my snare drum. We're going to write it directly on there. And in fact, I was thinking, is there a way for me to donate myself right now and I can add somebody? Let me think. I want to add somebody. So, all right, so I'm going to write the person's name right here. My dad is going through stage 4 prostate cancer. So I'm going to put him down on here. And then I'm going to go check out. And while I'm checking out, I'll probably take us off the screen here. It's just $20. I'm going to cover the fee because I'm awesome like that. And then I'm going to do all this stuff. Samuels. Fill all this stuff out. Allow the cause to contact me. Payment details. And I'm going to probably stop sharing here in a second whenever I start doing this part of it because it's going to start to get crazy and I don't want to have that on the screen. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to actually make a donation of $20 and I'm going to have my dad's name added to it. I'm going to do it right now. And then we'll be able to see that I have gone up from 165 to 185. And so I'll have to do that offline because it's tied to a different account right now. I know it's going to take me a little bit longer to do it. So anyway, that's how you're going to go in there and do that. So now I'm going to show you what the snare drum looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and add my dad's name on there because I know I'm going to pay for it. I buy lots of names every year. So let me grab the snare drum. I got it right here. I just want to give a shout out. I just forgot the guy's name. I think it's David Carrington. He does like an annual like garage sale of like really great like drum equipment. And I bought this Rogers snare drum from him, and I freaking love it. Big shout out also to Aquarian, who sponsors Drumathon every year. So this is an Aquarian drum head. Oops. Go away. I'm going to fight with my screen. It's fine. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and add my dad's name on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is write prayer circle so that we know it's the prayer circle. Doing it now. So go to that link that's in the comments, guys. Make a donation right now, and I can add the person's name right now during the show and show it to you here on the screen. So if you have somebody's name that you would like added to the prayer circle, that's great. It can be anyone. Usually, you know, if you have a breast cancer survivor in your life or somebody that you want to honor or memorialize who's a survivor of some sort, or maybe somebody who's just going through a tough time, or if you're going through a tough time, I'd be happy to add your name on here. So I'm going to add my dad's name right now, Ron Samuels. And I'm going to show you guys. There we go. So there it is right there. It's the prayer circle. Ron Samuels is added on there. For every $20 you guys donate, I can add the name of your warrior or your survivor or your hero or anybody that you want here on the prayer circle. So let me know. Ping in the comments and let us know if you've made a donation, and we'll also keep an eye to try to catch everybody who does that. So that's for the prayer circle right here. Prayer circle. So be sure to do that. Pull it over a little more so you can see it. Boom. So we'll be adding names all night long, so be sure to donate at any point. Again, $20 for every name that you would like added. Also, if you're on TikTok, you're not able to do that for some reason, we are accepting gifts over there, so please give us lots of gifts. We love that. Everything that you guys give as gifts on the Breast Cancer Can Stick It TikTok will be donated to Breast Cancer Can Stick It, which again will go towards mammogram research and trials and to financial assistance for breast cancer treatment. All right, guys, we're at 7:17 Central Time. Jill's going to be on here in about 10 minutes, so we're going to do a couple of things, play a couple of videos for y'all. But again, donate to that. And we'll be watching for it. Coming up at 8:15 Central Time will be Rod Morgenstein, drummer for Winger and the Dixie Dregs. You're going to want to check that out. If you have drummer friends, I'm just telling you, text them and say Rod Morgenstein is going to be on this live, and send them a link and say you can ask any question you want. Your drummer friends are going to go crazy because he's a legend. We all love us some Rod Morgenstein. And what else is cool about him is he's a lefty. So there's not that many lefty drummers out there. And especially at this level, this guy is amazing. I'm really excited for you guys to meet him. Also, we're going to talk a lot about the fact that he lost his wife to breast cancer several years ago. That's kind of how we ended up tied together. So such a blessing to get to know him. And he's such a positive spirit. I can't wait to share him with the rest of you guys here. Okay, I'm going to go and play some stuff. The first thing I'm going to play today is a little something from Dr. Joyce O'Shaughnessy. This is one of our fact or fictions, so be sure to check this out and invite your friends to hang out with us tonight. All right.
What about coffee and breast cancer? Women like myself or men who drink quite a bit of coffee, are we at increased risk for breast cancer? Thankfully not. And as you can imagine, there's been a lot of work done looking at coffee's association with a number of different cancers: pancreas cancer, colon cancer, stomach cancer, breast cancer. I'm happy to report there is no association with coffee drinking and developing breast cancer or other cancers.
Check it out. There's this killer new way to help raise funds for Breast Cancer Can Stick It by shopping at Kroger. Simply sign into your Kroger account online, then go into Community Rewards on the left-hand side. From there, search for Breast Cancer Can Stick It, then select Enroll. That's right, you shop, Kroger donates. Enroll with Breast Cancer Can Stick It today.
Hi, my name is Athena Jauno.
Hi, I'm Bill Fenton.
My name is Chip Heller.
My name is Christy Joe.
Hi, I'm Christy Johnson.
My name is Laura Sansoni.
Hi, my name is Mandy Fenton.
Hello, my name is Moran Davis.
My name is Patrick Stone.
I'm Ruth Fox.
Did you know we have a recurring donation program? Go to breastcancercanstickit.org and find Beat and Repeat in the middle of the page. Select Sign Up. From there, select the amount you wish to donate per month. Be sure to check the box to make this a monthly donation. You may also choose to cover the cost of processing to make your donation go that much further. Select a donation payment that works for you. Thanks for scheduling your recurring donation. Breast cancer hasn't stopped, and neither have we.
Well, here's a myth that carrying your cell phone in your bra can cause breast cancer. Thankfully, the data which I've recently reviewed are very strong that cell phones are not associated with getting any kind of breast cancer or brain cancer, for example, with a lot of use up by our brains. But, you know, more research needs to be done over a longer period of time. So it may be prudent not to carry our cell phone, you know, very close to our person at all times, you know, but I mean, it's certainly fine from time to time to carry the cell phone in the bra because there is no evidence at all that's concerning all the major global agencies that cell phones are causing cancer.
Welcome back, everybody. I was having my own little technical difficulties over here. I had some audio difficulties, but I've got it all fixed up. So sorry for the large delay there. I'm super excited to invite our first guest of the evening onto the show, and we've got Jill in the house. How are you doing, Jill?
Hi, I am fantastic. Happy to be here.
So good to have you. You know, we've hung out so much, but we've never had a chance to really sit down and talk.
Yeah, that is true. We have not gotten down into it, no.
I know, right? So I'm excited to get to do this. And first of all, Jill, thank you so much for your years of support. I know you've been kind of part of the Breast Cancer Can Stick It fold for some time. You've been in our groups, and I know your connection with Laura, who is one of our amazing volunteers. So thank you just for all the support over the years.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. I'm glad she connected me to y'all. It's been an incredible community to be a part of.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I want to start off by hearing, take us back to the date and time and all that good stuff as to when you were diagnosed. How did you find out you first had breast cancer?
So there's a little bit of a story and backstory even to that. I started having panic attacks out of the blue one day at work, started tapping my finger and couldn't quit. Didn't have anxiety before that, never had panic attacks before, and didn't know what was going on. It gradually gets worse to the point where one night I was literally pacing around in circles in my kitchen. And I finally was like, I have to do something. So I started bumming Xanax off of my friends. Obviously that worked. And so they started to dissipate. And
We
I
don't
was
recommend this, by the way.
no, this is not the way to do it. And then it was fall. And so I had reached one day to my dresser to get Claritin, which I live off of in certain seasons, like so many of us do. And I go to reach, and I had bought this off-brand Claritin. I go and I pick up the box. I'm like, oh my God, that's what it is. To the point that I was so convinced that there was some side effect from this off-brand Claritin that I had been taking, that's what had caused my panic attacks.
Like it was causing the shakes and just making you crawl out of your skin kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, I was a genius in self-diagnosis.
Well, because we're all so great at that.
To the point, I was calling my friends, oh, I figured it out.
Yeah.
I know what's wrong with me.
Right.
I'm fine. That lasted a good couple weeks until I rolled over one morning and felt a lump and went, yep, nope, not Claritin. So that's how I figured out. It was very quick because I had already lost my mom years before to breast cancer. And I immediately knew that's what it was.
So what was the trigger that made you realize it was breast cancer and not the Claritin?
Feeling a lump.
Feeling
literally rolled over that morning,
Uh-huh.
I sleep with my arms stretched out and kind of rolled over and literally felt a lump just like that, just out of nowhere.
Wow. So your body was doing crazy things to try to tell you something was up.
Oh yeah, it was definitely screaming at hey, you have cancer, pay attention. And I was not wanting to hear that.
Yeah. And so you said that your mom had breast cancer?
She did actually. 1977. She went to my younger brother was 4 years old, and she had just lost her sister to cancer. And she went to the doctor. He scared her so badly. And you can remember it was late 70s, right? It was a death sentence for sure. And she just never went back. And
wow. What did he do? You know what he said to her?
Don't know what he said, don't know what he told her, and she just never went back.
Wow.
And lived in denial for 22 years. Yeah, until there's a whole thing, but she ended up finally the last couple of years went to the hospital, had gone everywhere, and she was paralyzed for the last couple of years of her life.
Oh my
But
gosh, how awful.
but yeah, denial is a powerful thing, though. I mean, she managed to live decades when she probably in her mind would not have.
Gotcha. Right.
So,
Yeah. Wow, that's so crazy. And so
yeah,
she passed from the effects of the cancer that she had.
yeah.
And you
Yeah,
said,
it had gone everywhere.
And
I mean, it was like 90% of her body. Yeah.
wow. And you said it was her sister had breast cancer also?
I don't think her sister had breast cancer.
Oh,
Again,
she
I was like 9 at the time, but
gotcha.
she had stomach cancer or something, and it's the same sort of thing. I mean, she found out she was sick. 2 weeks later, she was gone.
Oh my gosh. These
Yeah,
are
yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah, scary stories. I mean, and the thing is back then when you went through cancer, it was so like traumatic and severe, the effects of chemo. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that movie Dying Young back in the 80s, and it was about a person who had cancer and they were terminal, and just how gutted they were and sick and just doubled over all the time, throwing up, and just awful, awful, awful. And it's so great how far medicine has come to where it's not that bad anymore when you go through chemo. There's stuff, don't get me wrong, and everybody has their things. Yeah. And well, I know we're going to get into that, but they have things to counteract the problems that it causes to your digestive system, specifically nausea and things like that, where they can control it pretty well compared to what it was like back in the 70s and 80s for sure. So, okay, so you realized you had this lump and you knew for sure that was what the deal was. So what did you do next?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I knew what it was, and I was panicking, internally. I was a single mom. My son Dylan was young. He was in 7th grade at the time. I was dating a guy that was way too young for me, but that is another story for another time.
That'll be a whole different broadcast with a
That's
different
a whole other
different
yes.
company or something.
And he was, I mean, he really tried, but it was a lot for him to handle, but that's a whole other thing. And I had a very, very definitive circle of trust. If you did not need to know that I was sick, there was no way I was telling you. And I think some of it was maybe how my mom handled things, sort of laid over, but I knew that I did not have the luxury of not doing something. And I do remember it being pretty and sunny outside, and I pulled over into a parking lot. I was on 35 or Stemmons, actually, even called the doctor. And I had been to this one doctor before when my mom was sick, and she was like, please go get checked out. I was like, all right, I go. He's like, you're fine. So that's who I called, because I was one of those people that never went to the doctor. And I called him and I said, hey, I think there's a lump. Can I come in and have you check me out? He said, go, of course, sure. Schedule the appointment. I go in. You're young. I'm sure it's nothing.
So how old were you at this time?
39.
39. And so what year was, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, this was, okay, let me do the math. 2006.
Okay.
What, is that right? Or 40? Wait, no, I'm sorry. I was 40.
Okay.
Because that was 2006. And yeah.
Okay.
So the fall of 2005, 2006. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So you called him up and you make this appointment.
Yep. I go in and he was like, well, just a bit, let's go ahead and schedule a couple things. So he schedules me the mammogram, woohoo, and a sonogram. Same day at Presby in Dallas, but they were like 3.5 hours apart. And my biggest concern was, oh God, what am I going to do for 3 hours, right? So I go in for the sonogram, same thing. Oh, you're young. I'm sure it's nothing. She comes out and she says, hey, so you have a sonogram scheduled for later today? And I said, yeah, I guess I'll just go run around, try to entertain myself. She goes, well, you know what? You're already here. Let's just go ahead and do that now. That's when I knew I was in trouble.
Because they're kind of like, oh, we need to up her and get her in a little quicker. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no world in which the hospital wants to make it more convenient for you. And I knew I was in trouble. And so they did the sonogram, and I hate to say, I mean, it's a pieces of it are a blur. And some of it maybe I've kind of blocked out, but I was at work and the doctor calls and he says, "Hey, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks." And I hang up, and I really have no idea what he's just told me. So I get up, I walk to the restroom down the hall, and I call him back. And I said, "Hey, so I'm okay, right?" And he says, "No, no, Jill, you have breast cancer."
Like it was such a traumatic thing for you that you couldn't even hear it.
Yeah. And I
Wow.
said, "Oh, okay,
Oh, that.
thanks."
Ugh.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I thought you weren't supposed to get bad news over the phone. So I know when he initially called me, my brain was like, "Oh, shoot, okay."
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, no, no, we were not good. And so the rest is history. And it was stage 3, but I am, as you might have guessed now, not one of those not a person that knows a lot of the details, or nor did I want to. So I know it's stage 3, but I don't know all of my technical um, positive, negative, plus, minus, dot, 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 3 numbers thingy. I don't know any of that still to this day. And I
Wow.
don't think I want to. Um, I do know that they took out uh, 10 lymph nodes and 8 of them were positive.
Gotcha.
I remember that. Yep, that's about it.
Oh,
As far as
wow.
my diagnosis went, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's so crazy. Yeah, and everybody deals with it differently when they get that diagnosis as far as like how much they want to know. For me, I wanted to know all kinds of stuff, but not everybody is that way. And you have to do whatever is your self-preservation, whatever that works for you, have to do that. And that goes for the whole realm of everything. Once you're diagnosed with breast cancer, or when you're diagnosed with any kind of cancer, it's like you have to deal with it on your own in whatever way is best for you personally. So, I think it's fine that you don't know those kind of details. If that's not what you want to know, then so be it. I'm just glad that you went to the doctor, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I had the conversation, and I had a wonderful oncologist, Dr. Canavan. I know a lot of people still know her. She's doing her thing. And that was who was going to do the mastectomy, left side, and all of that. And after that was over, I remember standing in her office and she was explaining the next steps being chemo. And I said, "Yeah, I'm thinking I don't want to go that route." And she just looked at me. She goes, "Let me put it to you like this. You can do chemo and live, or not do it and die."
That's pretty
Well,
straightforward.
well, if you put it like that, I guess sign me up.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I floated through so much of this.
Like meaning,
But
that you just like were kind of disconnected.
oh, completely.
Yeah, almost like you're
Absolutely.
watching it from afar or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They said Texas Oncology. I went to Texas Oncology in Plano.
yeah.
And I lived in Carrollton at the time. And that little strip up and down the George Bush, I can't even tell you how many times I drove that little trip. And I would show up. They told me I had the worst case of chemo brain they had ever had. I would show up days, that wasn't supposed to be there. I would show up hours late for an appointment, and I would come and go, "Hey, am I supposed to be here?" And they're like, "No, but let's just go
You
ahead and take
you
some
needed
time
you
anyway."
needed a keeper during that time or something. Did you have any support? Like you said, you kind of kept it to yourself, and it was like as on an as needed need to know basis for family and friends like that. But did you have people that offered to take you, or did you not want to, or how did all that work out?
Nope. I was not that, "Ooh, let's go have girls' day at chemotherapy appointments." No, I did not. I think a lot of patients do this in the beginning. I show up the first time. I had, books and, like seek and find puzzle deals because I used to love doing those. And maybe my laptop. And I'm like, "Okay." here we go. This will keep me entertained for the 4 hours that I have to be here. And then like the next appointment, you're lucky that you show up with, maybe your phone and a purse. So yeah, I was not in any kind of realm to like talk or be present for it. I kind of just wanted to put my head down, get through it, and come out of it without anybody even knowing I was there. I didn't tell anybody that didn't need to know, but I did have to widen the circle, obviously. But it was slow. When I had my surgery done, and my son still, and he's 33, kind of harbors a little resentment to me against this, I didn't tell him. I just didn't think there was any reason for him to know. And a friend of the family had taken him for the weekend, and he would hang out with their family sometimes. So he just went to do that. And he comes in when I come back home, and he said, "Okay, Mom, how's your heart?" Because I'd had like, little heart issue thingies, nothing major, but little stuff. He said, "Mom, how's your heart?" "Oh, my heart's just fine." Didn't bother to mention that I'd just gone through a very, very huge traumatic surgery, but yeah.
Wow. So it wasn't that you were hiding chemo, you actually hid the surgery and everything.
Oh yeah, everything. Well, the chemo, of course, obviously I knew I had to tell him, and it was the last week of his 7th grade. And in my head, I was like, okay, well, he's got finals. I can't tell him now. And then it was the first day of summer. I was like, well, I don't want to ruin the first day of summer. So I told him on the 2nd. And yeah, I mean, the things that we do, I wasn't, if I was ADD prior to going through chemo, I am full blown and will never recover from it. But you justify things. And I just thought I was doing what worked. So.
Did you ever get involved in any kind of groups or anything like that? It sounds like you were just very separated from the whole thing. Like you were there, but you weren't really there, so you weren't kind of I almost said embracing, but nobody embraces it.
But
Like
no, it's a good term, but because there was people that eventually found out,
uh-huh.
and then I remembered why I didn't tell anybody. They always want to bring you food when you're sick and you're going through this. And there was this one woman who has since passed on. At the time, she was 5 years, in remission. And we fondly called her the peanut butter lady, because a lot of times when church will bring you food because you're sick and going through this, and we had like 9 jars of peanut butter at one point that I was just giving it to my neighbors because I didn't even like peanut butter.
Like so you're saying that she was bringing you peanut butter for like your food or snack or
care
something?
packages. She would
Yeah.
come and bring care packages, and peanut butter was always part of always part of the box. But it was one of those things where, once people knew, they look at you with that sympathetic head tilt, which I didn't like seeing. And I speak now, and one of the things I speak on is toxic positivity. And I guess I didn't realize it at the time, but I was really trying to keep all of that, "Oh, you're a fighter," all that kind of stuff at bay, because I just couldn't hear it. That's just not the way I dealt with stuff. And I know I'm not suggesting this. This is not the way you should handle this at all. But I also, the guy that I was dating turned out to kind of be a psychopath.
Never a good
And
thing at any point in your life, let alone when you're going through breast cancer. Yowza.
no, it was not a good mix.
Ugh.
And bizarrely enough, it was a distraction. It was a train wreck. I had started my wedding planner business, and I booked I'd done the Dallas bridal show and booked my first bride, and 2 weeks later is when I found out I had cancer.
Oh gosh, wow.
And so there was so many things that I was trying to juggle, because of course nobody wants to hire a wedding planner that might die, right? So I didn't want to tell them. And I sort of took a leap. I did 3 weddings right before chemo started. And then I took 6 months away from the business. I was still like planning or trying to, and meeting with brides. Remember when you're like sweating, when you just sit there and you're going, and all of a sudden you would just sweat like hot flash out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
And I would be across the table from some bride and her mom and just try to pretend like,
Like you're not having a
happening.
major hot flash. For
Yeah.
those watching, just so you know, when you're going through chemo, it puts you into menopause, and so you have all the same kinds of symptoms and stuff as if you were going through menopause. So hot flashes are one of them, and Effexor became my friend during that time for sure.
Oh yeah. It was just the whole experience. And the things I remember, either were great or were horrible. The day-to-days, I will tell you this, again, this is maybe not the best way, but it worked for me. Um, Remember how you were talking about it's the shot that they give you
Yeah, the
to keep
Neulasta
your
shot.
white,
Yeah,
yeah, to
Neulasta.
keep your white blood cell. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know if this does this to everybody, but for me, the day after they give you the shot, it felt like millions of little tiny men with little tiny yet very sharp hammers were just tapping at every square inch of every bone that I had.
I described it the same, only polar opposite. I said that it felt like a person beating me with a bat.
Oh,
Like it felt like I had been beaten with a baseball bat all over. So yeah,
yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, oh no, no. So that's, the thing. I learned that that it took 20 minutes for the Vicodin to kick in. And so for the 5 months of chemo, for the most part, I would take a Vicodin every 3 hours and 40 minutes
So
because I,
did your oncologist supply you with Vicodin, or was that like
oh
this?
yeah,
Oh
oh
really?
yeah.
I was not that lucky. They had me just taking like a bunch of ibuprofen. Like
Oh,
they were instructing me on how much I could take. And of course this was in 2010, 2011, so it was a little bit later than you, so maybe it changed for some reason, or it might have had to do with the different types of chemo maybe we were on or something, but I was not offered Vicodin, and I'm now
wow.
upset about that.
No, I had bottles and bottles and bottles of it
Yeah.
because I was just taking it because I would have never made
Yeah,
it without that, because
yeah.
if you miss that 20-minute window
Yep.
and I could feel the little tiny hammer man,
It's too late. You're
no,
too late. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you had to like do it, and you had to take the medication in advance. I was doing it, like I said, with ibuprofen, and it was a certain amount, like not what you take on the bottle. It was being told to me from my
yeah,
doctor to
sure.
take like 8 or something, or 10 or some crazy amount. That of course, again, listen to your doctor. Whatever they say is correct, not what I say.
Yes.
But yeah, you had to get ahead of it, because once it settled, it was just horrible, man. Terrible, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
only got sick one time, and the nausea, and I don't even think it was chemo induced. I think it was food poisoning. I only got sick once the whole time while I was going through chemo. The Vicodin, of course, helped through all of that. And but what they didn't tell you, which we now all know from all of the documentaries and such, I was like, okay, well, I'm done. Let's stop taking, Vicodin. And I'm sitting on the couch one afternoon, life's going by, and I kind of like grab a hold of my stomach and I'm like, ooh, God, that doesn't feel good. And then it felt like, and of course I have some sort of a graphic, visualization of everything. It felt like somebody grabbed a hold of my stomach, twisted it, and it just kind of held on to it for about 3 days,
Ah, that's awful.
which
So,
I now have found out is Vicodin withdrawal.
oh
uh,
gosh, yeah.
yeah. So that was not
Well, I
fun.
didn't have to deal with that, so maybe that's another reason to, obviously, if you're going through breast cancer treatment and you're having this problem with the Neulasta shot, be sure to talk to your doctor and see what they can do to help you, and give you some advice on what you could be taking, and hopefully it won't be something where you, build like a physical addiction to something like that, because that's not good, man. That sucks.
Oh yeah.
So
I
yeah.
remember asking my oncologist, Dr. Gupta, And I remember asking Dr. Gupta, okay, so when do I get pot? Like, is that a thing here? This was what, 2006 in Texas, so that was not a thing. And he says, no, I can't. He says, but I have these pills. Let me think.
Can you tell me what you said, Pat?
Pot, small pot, weed.
Oh, pot. I thought you said PAT. Oh,
no, marijuana.
Okay.
And I said, can I have some? And he says, yeah, I don't have any. I can't give you any. They didn't have medical marijuana at that point. And so he said, but I can give you a pill. And I'm like, I'll take a pill. And there were Marinol. And there were these little brown, like, balls. They kind of look like, I don't even know. I mean, like a ball bearing, but larger. I mean, they were like, it's the weirdest thing, right? And I said, okay, yeah. He goes, if you really need it, you take one of these. I'll give you. Okay, great. And I took one, and it worked, but it really worked. I mean, it felt like my entire body was high, and I was like, I don't like that, and
No,
I
that
want to
doesn't sound
save
fun.
these
Yeah.
until I feel better, and then maybe that'll be more fun. And then the psychopath boyfriend, he ended up taking them all.
Oh my God. Sorry, I'm just like one thing after another. Your story is quite unique, Jill. I will just say this.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
I got to get back to so one thing that I've kind of missed. I've usually like really like anal about wanting to make sure we're telling me things in chronological order, because my brain has trouble. But your story is so interesting that I wasn't about to stop you. So you talked about having your chemo and your surgery. Which came first for you?
Surgery was first.
Gotcha.
And then after surgery was chemo. And then after chemo was radiation. And then, goodness, can't tell you. I probably should have like written notes, because I am writing. I've got a book that I've been working on for decades. And I know in the book I've actually written, and I know that the dates are right. I cannot remember how many years went by before I started to think about getting reconstruction. And so at some point, one of the doctors said, oh, well, if you get a mastectomy on the other side, that like lowers the chance like 90 something % of getting. And I'm like, well,
Wait,
yeah, let's do that.
He said having a double mastectomy lowers the risk of recurrence by 90%.
On the other side, because I had already had the mastectomy on the left side, and he said by doing it on the right side that would lower something 90 something %.
Okay, those numbers are definitely not correct anymore. If they were then, because honestly, and it's a surprise to me, to be honest, but honestly, the doctors say that a lumpectomy and a mastectomy do not change your risk of recurrence. Because generally speaking, if you're going to have recurrence, it means it's probably in your system somewhere already. But I still lean towards, like, I did a double mastectomy, as you know, and I felt like that kept me safer in some way. But I find that really interesting, because your doctor said something like that, and most of the doctors these days are not saying anything like that. So we'll have to get to that.
Oh, no, they are not saying anything like that.
No.
So I just took him for what he said. And so went ahead and had the right side done. And then they did the reconstruction of that, which that's just a whole lot of stuff. And then, oh yeah, I mean, that was a lot. As far as the surgery, like when I first had the mastectomy done, and you have, all the little alien-esque, like tubes and stuff wrapped around you.
The drains, the drains, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's something out of a movie. They don't talk about that. There's so much that they don't tell you.
Oh, well,
until
yeah.
you
I mean, and I think that people become like just they're so used to having people come in and out who are going through cancer that they don't really recognize who knows what anymore. And so they just sort of ship you through and you're kind of learning as you go. A lot of times, a lot of the things that happen to me anyways, the same things don't happen to everybody. So they're not going to necessarily tell you all the stuff. They're just going to give you the basics like, yeah, your hair is going to fall out. Yeah, you're probably going to have some digestive issues and fingernails and skin and some of these basic things, but not everybody gets neuropathy, for example. But they just sort of give you a little bit of that. But like nobody's really explained to me about the Elastishock causing pain when it did. And so, yeah.
Nobody told me that either.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
So, and I have to keep doing this so that people can follow us when we're talking, because you and I know what we're talking about, but not everybody watching would know necessarily. So basically, after you have a double mastectomy, they put these drains in and they go like kind of on your side, under your armpit, like down on your side a little ways on both sides if you have a double mastectomy. And it actually is to collect any fluid that was left behind from the surgical area. And they actually have like, at least they did for me. And when you're in the hospital, they have like somebody come in and they pump the drain and they get more fluid out and then they dump it out and then they put it back on. And then you have like a, clean drain that's there to collect again. And some people have these drains in for weeks after surgery.
Oh, that would have been me.
Yeah. And see, but that's more normal. I had mine in for 4 days. I got them taken out before I left the hospital. Now, it's worth mentioning, I don't know what size you were prior to your mastectomy. I was quite small. And so I think that's why I didn't have as much stuff draining. But yeah. But
and mine was even worse because you had to get it out of the drain and put it in these little cups because you had to measure it every day, like 3 times a day, which you clearly didn't have to do.
Well, that part I might not have been familiar with because, to be honest, I wasn't like looking at anything. People were doing stuff and I didn't want to see. And so they could have been doing that. Measuring fluid sounds like probably something they would normally do. And that's probably how they determined they could take mine out, is because I wasn't producing enough fluid each day. But anyway, go on.
Oh, but you had to kind of, like go through the tube and make sure that all the fluids in your body were coming out of that tube. And so the tube would stretch because it was that kind of rubbery, plasticky stuff. There was a point where I could literally wrap it around my waist.
Oh my gosh.
And tuck it into the pants that I was wearing.
Yeah, I don't remember anything although, like I said, you had yours much longer than me. I do recall that they make shirts and they make obviously hospital gowns that have little pockets for your drains, so you can just put your little drains in the pockets and walk around and whatever. It's a very strange scenario. It's funny because, Jill, I've had like a ton of people on this broadcast. I don't know if I've ever talked about drains in any of these broadcasts. It's worth mentioning though, because it's a piece that people don't understand. And I probably have talked about it on live broadcast before, maybe not during a beat broadcast. The fact that when I had mine removed, like you can feel like when they're pulling them out, they're just pull them out. You don't, like, I was hooked up to morphine at the time because I was still in the hospital, and he's like, go ahead, juice yourself up as much as you can before I do this. So I'm like maximizing my morphine as much as it'll let me do it. And then he starts pulling it out, and I swear it was like, picture like tug of war or something where you're just pulling a string out, and you could feel it just unraveling inside my chest coming out.
It's like the
burning.
Alien movie.
Oh, it burned so bad, and it was so painful. I have audio of when they did that because I recorded everything when I had a doctor in the room because I wanted to remember everything. And by the way, a lot of doctors don't allow that anymore, but if you check with them, in my opinion, they should allow it. Anyway, I won't get into that, but check your state and local laws about that. But anyway, I recorded it, and they knew I was recording it, and you could hear me screaming and everything. And Jill, I just realized we're almost at the top of the hour here, but I'm gonna have to like cut to the near the end of the story. But you had your mastectomy, you had your chemo, you had your radiation, and then you had your reconstruction. You did end up having a double mastectomy at the end of it, all right?
Yes.
You had a double mastectomy, and so then you had a reconstruction for both of your breasts.
Yep.
Gotcha. And that when you completed everything, you said it was probably 3 years, 4 years, something like that down the road by the time you had finished
Well,
everything.
I know that if we do the math, Reconstruction happened in 2011 because it was when my son had graduated from high school, and it was
Wow,
September.
that's like after I finished my own chemo.
Yeah,
I
so
was like
that's when
done.
Reconstruction happened.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then right after COVID, I went back in because there was issues, because there always are, and because they used the placement of it. They used to do under the muscle or over the muscle, whichever. They don't do now. They do the opposite, and they went in and did that.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that too, Jill, because you know, I've heard from people that a lot of times when you have a double mastectomy, the surgeon or the oncologist or whoever's involved will be like, okay, let's get your reconstruction schedule. Or they'll just assume that people want reconstruction. Not everybody does want reconstruction. It's good to have the option if you want to do it, but also no, you
Yeah.
don't have to do it if you don't want to do it. And there's benefits obviously to both sides. If you would obviously prefer to have breasts, I think everybody would prefer to have breasts, and that's important. Then definitely do whatever is important to you. But the thing they don't tell you is that, yeah, you have to go back for revision surgeries a lot after your reconstruction. So in contrast, whenever I had my breast cancer, I was diagnosed October 26th of 2010, and I completed my chemo on I think it was April 7th, 2011, and I was done. I didn't have any surgeries. I have anything else I had to do. I did have follow-ups. I went I think once a month to the oncologist, and once every 3 months for a while, then once every 6 months, and then once a year, and did all that and completed all that in about 7 years. But I didn't have any more treatments, no more surgeries, nothing else. So it's just worth mentioning that there's a pretty big drastic difference between if you do choose to have reconstruction. I'm not at all trying to be a proponent one way or the other, because everybody needs to do exactly what they want to do. But it's just like you said, this is another thing they don't tell you. You're gonna have to keep dealing with things, and a lot of that's gonna elongate your recovery, and it's gonna do all this stuff. And you just need to be aware of what you're getting to, so that you know before you start your journey. So if you're newly diagnosed with breast cancer, make sure you ask all the questions. I used to bring a big notebook of stuff with me every time I went. I would write everything down.
That.
I would record it too. I did all the things. I was very meticulous about it, because I wanted to know, what was going on. I wanted to make sure any weird thing that was happening to me was sensible and not a problem. Even if it was just my nails looked weird or something, I'd still tell them, hey, is this normal? Because what if they were like, oh no, that means I don't know, you need iron, you're gonna die next week if you don't. I don't know, but stuff like that.
No, but I agree with that. You are 100% right. Do as I say and not as I do. If I had it to go back, I wish I could have been more present, because I think I would have made my presumption of my outlook a little better. The way I handled it, the meltdowns that I had would have not probably occurred if I would have known what was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely ask questions, because if you don't ask, they're probably not going to tell you, or you're just not going to be in a place where you can hear it.
Yeah. No, that's so good. It's cool that you can look back at it like that and feel that way, because one of the people on our board who's also a breast cancer survivor, one of the things she always says is knowledge is power, and that's true. So definitely so. But whatever it is that you're going through when you get diagnosed with breast cancer, you just have to deal with it as it comes, and you got to do whatever is best for you. But hopefully everybody out there knows that there are support groups like the Survivors Rock, a breast cancer can stick it community on Facebook. Also, if you guys have me on Facebook or whatever, and you just need to vent, just message me anytime. Just PM me on Facebook, Instagram, wherever. It doesn't matter. I can be an ear for you. Some people don't like to talk to people that they know really well or are super close to, because those people may freak out by their reactions they're having. Whereas with me, I can be like, hey, it's cool. You can be yourself with me, and it's all good. So feel free to talk to me if anybody needs to talk about this stuff. And Jill, I just don't feel like there's enough time in the day for you and me to talk. I have so many more questions and things like that. So we'll have to do this again in a year or two and have you back on and get an update. But just to be clear, you're cancer free. You've been cancer free since forever now, right? For a long time.
forever now. Yes, absolutely.
That's
yeah.
awesome. Do you still get any kind of checkups? Are you on tamoxifen or anything like that?
I am not on anything, and I've gone to the doctor and gotten checkups. And as I get older, I'm getting better.
Good, good. Yeah, we got to do all the colonoscopy fun stuff now, and ugh,
Yeah.
Lordy, man, they're so fun. There we had Del Gray on the broadcast from Little Texas last month, and he's a colon cancer survivor, and he caught his colon cancer early because of that kind of like required or suggested scanning that you can do and colonoscopies that you can have done. So it's all very important. Everybody take care of yourselves. And Jill, girl, come back soon, okay? We need to do this again so we can get some more words in. If not, maybe we can meet up for coffee sometime and do that, because
Absolutely.
any excuse to have coffee for me anyway.
And I will see you soon.
Yes.
In a couple months.
Yeah, you're going to be at Drumathon, right?
I will be at Drumathon.
And we didn't even talk
absolutely.
about the fact that you're playing drums and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to talk about, Jill. Jill's a drummer, breast cancer survivor here in Dallas, Texas. Come out to Drumathon November the 2nd and meet her in person. It'll be awesome. Awesome. Well, have a great night, Jill. It was great chatting with you. Take care, okay?
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody, give it up for Jill. So awesome to have her on this evening. Man, all of our breast cancer survivors have such unique stories, and I know that her story is going to be an inspiration to many out there. Please be sure to share out the broadcast. We're also going to have this, it'll be up on our YouTube channel. It's on our Facebook channel. It's going to be everywhere. So be sure and watch the replay if you joined late. Lots of great things here. All right, we're going to spin a couple of videos for you guys. I talked a little bit about my story earlier, so I'm going to see if I can play this one. There's really no telling what will happen if I play this. So let's see what happens. I'm going to play this one. This is from 2015, just about 4 years after I finished treatment. And it's kind of giving you some background on my journey through breast cancer. Check this out. And be sure to get your questions together for Rod Morgenstein, drummer from Winger and the Dixie Dregs, coming up here in about 10 minutes. See you on the flip side.
April Samuels. I actually was born in Amarillo, Texas, but I grew up in Plano. I'm a drummer, a breast cancer survivor. A lot of people I know don't have a passion in their lives, and this is my passion. And I live for it, I really do, every single day. I started playing drums, I got drumsticks when I was 5 years old. I was in a music store with my mom for my brother's guitar lesson. Found a pair of drumsticks, and I was like, oh, get it for me. So she got me those pair of drumsticks. I started taking lessons when I was 11, and I've been playing ever since. So I've been playing professionally for about 20 years. So I'm about 22. It was a Tuesday, 9 o'clock in the morning, and my phone rang. And my doctor said, I can't really believe it, but you have breast cancer. It's what's called triple negative breast cancer, and it's high grade. And he told me to take some time, get on the internet, reputable sources, and learn about triple negative breast cancer and what high grade means. And I learned really quickly that it wasn't good. A couple of days later, I was able to go in and sit down with the doctor. I prepared a big list of questions and asked him everything I could. And I remember the moment really well. I recorded every conversation with any doctor through that whole period because there was so much information at once. And I asked him, I said, you said it's triple negative, you said it's high grade, it's the worst it could be, is that right? And he said, well, yeah. So I looked at my dog, and she was 12 or 13 at the time, and I thought she might outlive me. And that was just really shocking, to think that my dog could outlive me. I think anytime someone is diagnosed with breast cancer or any kind of cancer, they just immediately think they're going to die, and soon. So that's how I felt. No, I haven't. Very thankful for that. Yeah, when I did talk to my doctor about triple negative breast cancer and everything that we knew at that point from the biopsy, and I said, well, you're telling me that this is an aggressive form of breast cancer, so I want to be aggressive right back. What's the most aggressive approach? And he said, a double mastectomy and 4 months of chemo. And I decided at the time not to have reconstruction because I just wanted to make it easier to find any cancer in the future, because the most common place for it to recur is either on your chest wall or in your lungs, and I just wanted to make it really easy to find if there was any threat in the future. So I went ahead and did not have reconstruction, and I wear prosthetics. Literally within, I believe, 10 days of being diagnosed, I decided that I wanted to be the biggest advocate that I could in the fight against breast cancer. And I came up with the slogan, "Breast cancer can stick it," combining my passion for drumming and my passion for fighting breast cancer, and came up with that slogan. And I had my friend draw up a little logo and everything, and started selling t-shirts and raising funds in the fight against breast cancer. So jumping into that made it where I could take all the energy and turn it into positive energy and start doing something in the fight against breast cancer. I was also really active in my church at that time and had a really strong church group in my family. We were very close as well. So having my friends and my family just gave me a lot more energy. I found that if I was alone for very much time during that whole time, that it was really bad for me. I would get very depressed. So sometimes friends would just come over and stay a few days with me, and that got me through it every single time. Deborah and I met at church. We went to a church together called Whosoever Dallas. We met a few years before I was diagnosed, and she's just an amazing photographer and an amazing person too. She had an exhibit called Underneath My Clothes, and had several people that she had done phototherapy with in that gallery. And I remember one woman in the gallery was a woman named Karen, and she had breast cancer, and she had a double mastectomy. And I just remember how touching and how moving those photos were, especially of Karen. And Karen was there that day, and I actually had a chance to talk to her. And so shortly after I was diagnosed, I don't know, I had this feeling that Deborah was gonna call me and ask me, and I had already decided that if she asked me, it wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to do, because you're very vulnerable in a phototherapy session, but I knew it was something that I needed to do, to be able to get through everything. It's hard to describe, but Deborah will talk to you about whatever it is that you've been through and just bring forward those emotions through whatever issue you've gone through. And it doesn't have to be necessarily something where you're left with scars or any kind of body deformity or anything like that. It could be an emotional problem, but she'll talk you through everything, talk to me about, going through breast cancer, through my diagnosis, and just kind of bringing all those feelings out. I definitely did feel like I wanted to push back, when she was talking to me, but I still found a way to push forward and still be able to release those emotions, which is the whole point of phototherapy. You're there, you're naked, literally, but also emotionally, and it's that whole process that is, I can't even describe it. It's just a wonderful process. I'm just so thankful to have gone through it, because when I look back at those pictures, I can really see how far I've come, not just physically, but emotionally too. It is really something that I'm so blessed to have had the opportunity to do. When I look at the pictures, I guess I knew at that time that I wasn't, sure what was going to happen. I knew that I was going to have chemo. I was pretty sure I was going to be okay, but I didn't know for sure. I didn't know what chemo was going to be like. I didn't know, there's risks with chemo. There's risks with all the treatments and everything, all the medications and stuff like that. I was scared, but I also was sure about my decision, and I was focused, on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to get everything done. So.
And how do you see yourself now?
Yeah, I feel physically and mentally strong, unless somebody asks me about how I used to feel. No, I do. I feel like I am here for a purpose. This is what I'm called to do. Breast Cancer Can Stick It is my life. This is something, it's the first time I've had something in my life that I feel like every point in my life brought me to where I am today with this, and it was all building me up to have this organization, and I will carry this all the way out, and you know, sometimes I think, oh, I'll do this until the day I die. And well, no, because we're going to solve for breast cancer before that, right? That's the plan. So, you know, while I keep thinking, oh, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, the plan is to not have to do it for the rest of my life. And then I'll find another cause to get behind and do that. I've played drums since I was 5, basically. I got drumsticks when I was 5 years old. And so it's always been a part of who I am. And I always wondered, I was like, you know, once as I got older, I was like, well, I'm not signed, I'm not touring the world, you know, what's this drum thing about? Is it just a hobby? What's the purpose behind it? When I got diagnosed with breast cancer and came up with Breast Cancer Can Stick It, it was like, that's what it's for. It's to bring a new spin on awareness for breast cancer, to be able to reach a whole new audience and to be able to take this to a whole nother level and raise awareness. Breast Cancer Can Stick It. We've done so many amazing things. You know, sometimes I'll have to step back and go, whoa, what just happened? Some great examples are in 2013, I was preparing for one of our big Breast Cancer Can Stick It events in Corpus Christi. And I was talking to Ricky Rocket of Poison, who I got put in touch with. And he was like, well, what kind of drum set are you playing or whatever? And I told him, and I was like, you know, but I've been looking at your Rocket Drumworks kits for a while. And he's like, let me see what I can do. Called back a week later and they donated a black glitter drum set with pink hardware for our Breast Cancer Can Stick It events. And so we use that at all of our events now. That was amazing. Also having some great celebrities at that event that year. Troy Lucetta of Tesla, Jimmy Deanda of Bullet Boys was there. Another thing that happened last year was Bret Michaels from Poison did a meet and greet wearing a Breast Cancer Can Stick It shirt on his birthday. And so all of a sudden all these pictures started showing up out there. In fact, that day that they gave us that drum set or called about that drum set, they offered me an endorsement deal, so I play Rocket Drumworks now. I have 2 kits, that black glitter kit with the pink hardware, and then a black kit with pink checkers and pink hardware too. And the thing that makes this celebrity interaction so important is that spreads the word even more so we can raise even more funds. So last year we wrote a check to Baylor Salmons Cancer Center for $10,000. We've also donated to the Pink Daisy Project, which is an organization that helps women who are going through breast cancer right now, just with, you know, financial needs, whether it be a gas card or, you know, a restaurant gift card or anything like that. So we've been able to donate a lot, and then this year we're doing a big thing called a drumathon, and it's going to be our annual walk, if you will, but it will be geared towards drummers, but anyone can participate in it, and we're hoping to raise between $50,000 and $75,000 from that one event. So I mean, it's just growing bigger and bigger, and we're making a bigger dent in breast cancer each day, really. You know, I really feel that it's important to reach women directly as well. So many times I'll be talking to someone and they'll be like, oh, my friend was just diagnosed. I'll be like, tell them to write me on Facebook or whatever. And having those direct conversations are so important when you've been diagnosed recently. It's really hard to talk to people that you're close to about breast cancer because they're emotionally involved, right? But whenever they can talk to me, I've been through it, I understand, and they don't have to worry about me getting upset. Not that I don't care, but I'm not, you know, a friend or family member that can't handle hearing how hard it is. So it's important that we do it that way too. I'm a drummer, a breast cancer survivor, and the founder of Breast Cancer Can Stick It. That's who I am. Everything about me. Sleep, eat, drink, drums, breast cancer awareness. Every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back, man. So, yeah, that was my story. Again, I want to give a big shout out to Deborah Gloria and Loria, who also had the means to put that video together to tell my story a little bit. If you're not familiar with my full story, you can also find us on YouTube. There's actually a video from back in 2011 when I had just started chemo. I was bald and everything, and you can kind of hear the raw things that were going on at that time. So check that out as you have time. All right, next up, guys. We've got our next guest of the evening, Mr. Rod Morgenstein, drummer from the Winger and the Dixie Dregs. How are you doing, Rod?
Doing great, April. Good to see you.
You too. So great to have you on the show. I really wanted to tell everybody how we met because I think it's so cool, and it's also a great plug for Kip. So back in 2011, I went to Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and Kip Winger was my counselor, and I had just finished chemo, and so I was bald and everything. It was kind of my big party for completing chemo and coming out the other side, and he told me, I knew about you, and he said, "Oh, I need to put you in touch with Rod." And of course, my jaw dropped because I'm a drummer, and I think you're super cool. And Rod, all us drummers out here just freaking are amazed by you. You're just an amazing drummer and such a legend. So excited to get to talk to you. We did tell people to log in tonight and be sure it's in their questions. So at some point we might have some time to see what people have to ask you. But I'm just so grateful for have gotten the opportunity to meet you. Another connection that we had, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, is your wife, Michelle, who you lost to breast cancer several years back. And so I felt immediately connected to you. And the coolest thing, Rod, is just yours and, of course, Kip, too. You guys are such genuine people and just such a light in my life every opportunity that I get to associate with either one of you. So thanks for being you, man.
This is so amazing. It's funny, like you mentioned, Kip. I just spoke with him last night. His mom sadly passed away a few days ago.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
And so he's trying to take care of everything as we speak.
Yeah. Well, when we came back from the break, we were talking I just lost my mom, so I feel that, man. I feel that really hard. It's a tough thing to go through. It doesn't matter what age you are. It's never the right time. You know what I mean?
Oh, true.
So,
Yes.
as we were talking about a little bit before the break, one of the things that I love to do when I have someone like yourself on the show is because, we know a lot about Rod Morgenstein current, but a lot of us may not know the story of how you got into drumming in the first place. So I want to take us back to when you were young and let us know how old you were and how did you suddenly get this urge to start drumming?
Yeah, I mean, I've told this story several times before. I grew up in the town of Plainview, New York, which is on Long Island, about 35 miles from New York City. And it was February of 1964, and my family, my sister Carol and my parents and I, as we did every Sunday night, we sat down around the TV, and this one particular Sunday night in February of 64, we watched the Beatles perform for the first time on the Ed Sullivan Show.
I can't tell you how many times I've talked to folks, and this was the trigger, man. That was such an important broadcast.
Right. It's Greg Bissonet's story. I bet it's Kenny Aronoff's story too. So, I knew in that moment, that was it, right? I pointed to the TV. I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up, and I want to play the drums. I don't know why, I chose the drums of all the choices of instruments, because I already had taken some piano lessons when I was, this was 64, so I was 10 years old at that time. And my parents, who tried to give my sister and I some culture, had enrolled us in the Children's Cultural Workshop in Plainview. And so, we took piano lessons, but I never really took to it. I didn't enjoy it. And when they saw that I was just dying to hit stuff,
Yes.
after that show, my dad took me to Manny's Music in New York City. That was when 48th Street used to just be filled with music stores, right? And Manny's was an iconic music store, and got me my first, I don't want to say drum set, it was a bass drum and a snare. And back then, bass drums had a little telescoping cymbal stand that came out of the center.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it came with a 10-inch cymbal.
Oh, wow. 10-inch.
Which I still have to this day.
Wow. Do you know what brand it was?
Yeah, sure. It was a black lacquered Ludwig drums. Well, because Ringo played Ludwig.
Right.
To have. And so my parents said, look, let's start with the bass drum and the snare drum and the cymbal and see if your interest holds with it. And if it does, then we'll buy you a hi-hat, then the ride cymbal, then a rack tom, then a crash cymbal, then the floor tom, and then You
The
know, I was
longer you hold your interest, the more stuff you get.
yeah. And this is amazing. I have, well, he's now become a friend. Do you know Terry Gwynn?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, remember? I think in the early years when I first met you in 2013, you autographed one of those for me. One of the things that he made, the memorabilia thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I was teaching in person up in Boston at Berkeley for the 20 years that I did that, um, this has got to be 10 or 15 years ago, a package arrived, a big box, and I opened it up, and it was a tom-tom that was refinished where um, it was turned into like a coffee table with a round
Yeah.
glass top
Uh-huh.
that had my name etched in it. And then inside the drum were all different photographs
I
of.
remember you posting that picture or him sharing it with me or both.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
so there was a letter accompanying the drum, and it said, "Yeah, hi, my name's Terry Gwynn. I'm a fan of yours, and you know, I've come up with the concept of making one-of-a-kind items based on musical instruments, and this is my gift to you." Right? So I was so taken aback that somebody, you know, would do that. I mean, it took a lot of time, and it even has lights in it, and not that long after, uh, I spoke with Terry. I said, "Hey, you know what, Terry? I have my first two drum sets. In fact, I hadn't seen them in years because they've been in these giant road cases for years. And I took them out, and all the foam rubber had disintegrated or come apart,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
attached itself to the drums, and
Oh no.
all the chrome is now green, and
Oh
it's eight
gosh.
drums that look like I should just bring them to the curb and let the trash people
Right.
take them away. He
Yeah.
said, Rod, send me the drums. I'm across the country in the San Francisco
Uh-huh.
area. Send me your drums. I will refurbish them, and let's talk about what you might like to do with them. And so we decided on creating a conversation piece where the eight drums would be kind of suspended from a giant beveled glass table about 6 feet wide, you know, by 3 feet deep, and tell me who some of your drumming idols are. And like I did with that floor tom that I gave you, where it's just lined with photos of you,
Yeah.
I will do each of the eight drums uh, with photos of your drumming idols.
Oh wow. So
Right?
awesome.
And
Yeah.
so it took a year or two or however long. And when we spoke, he said, Rod, I don't feel comfortable shipping this to you. I am renting a Winnebago and driving across the country to deliver and set up this conversation piece for you. And I said, Terry, that's like 3,000 miles. He said, no, I met a girl online. She lives in Connecticut. And so, you know,
Can
I'll get some.
make it all work. Yeah, yeah.
And then I
Tie it
think
all
he
together.
might have even said, is it okay if I bring her to your house? I forget that part of the story.
Right.
So, you know, eventually he made his way here, pulled up the driveway in the Winnebago, and then we spent all day putting this thing together on a Gibraltar hardware stand. And the snare drums and the rack toms and the bass drums are suspended. And then the floor toms have their legs on them on each side. And so the two bass drums, you know, my first bass drum, which I got right after, you know, obsessing over the Beatles and Ringo Starr, that's lined with photos of Ringo. The other drum set, which the finish is called Psychedelic Red, also Ludwig. I don't know if you are familiar with that finish. It's a swirl of greens, reds, and blues. And I remember my dad and the salesman trying to talk me out of getting that drum set. You know, when some years later my parents said, hey, we'll buy you a new drum set. And I said, no, I love this. And they said, yeah, but it's really weird looking and like tie-dye. Well, you know, up until one day, years into Winger, where Kip said, could you maybe not wear tie-dye anymore? You know, like 20 years into I'm like a 1960s,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
Grateful Dead, hippie, tie-dye
Right.
type guy. I still love the drums. I still love the finish. So the other bass drum is Mitch Mitchell, you know, one of my favorite, if not my favorite drummers of all time. Then the floor toms are John Bonham and Billy Cobham. And then the rack toms are, like I gotta get this straight. Ginger Baker. I came to love Charlie Watts years later, and so he's in the other tom tom. And then the snare drums are Clive Bunker, the original drummer from Jethro Tull, and Tony Williams, the great jazz drummer who played with Miles Davis and had the Tony Williams lifetime.
Oh,
Just yeah.
that's awesome,
It should
man.
be, there's eight
Yeah.
drummers. Those, oh yes, those are the drummers who really shaped my life and career. And I've gotten to meet some of them. I met Mitch Mitchell at a PAS show once, and I couldn't believe that I was taller than he is, you know, because I'm like 5'5". I mean, I think I was 5'6", but I'm like 5'5" now. He was shorter than I. I've gotten to meet Billy Cobham and one other of these guys that I can't even think. I saw Ginger Baker shortly before he passed away at the Iridium in New York City, and he screamed at an audience member who was so excited. And while Ginger Baker was introducing the next song, Ginger Baker, you know, started screaming, "Will you shut up? I'm trying to talk about the next song, you twit." He was in character, you know. He was like an irascible curmudgeon. That's a song title a friend of mine used for a song that he wrote, and I love it.
So
But
funny.
that was Ginger Baker. Oh, I met Ringo. What am I talking about? The first famous musician I've ever met in my life was when the Dixie Dregs were recording what for all of us was our first album. So it was December of 1976. We were at Hollywood Sound, a studio in Hollywood, California. And I remember we were cutting the country song. We were cutting drums to the one country song on the record. So the one song that doesn't show off the drumming. And I saw the door to the control room open and Ringo Starr and his wife walked in, right? So we were like 22, 23 years old, freaking out. Of course, after I was freaking out and going, oompa, 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 my ego then took over.
Right.
And I was so upset that we were playing the oompa song.
Right.
You know, instead of like
Something.
the drum solo in Cruise Control or something.
Right.
I'd be showing up as if Ringo Starr could care.
I get it though. I mean, yeah, it's like having somebody come in when you're playing like what was some song that doesn't even have drums, or you're just like swelling on the cymbals or something, and you're like, so and so's here,
right.
and I'm like,
you're way in the background. And so since I mentioned that story, I have to very quickly mention another similar story that happened 30 years later. I was working with Ken Scott, you know, the famous producer engineer who worked with the Beatles and Elton John, David Bowie, Supertramp, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Billy Cobham Spectrum, Stanley Clarke School Days, Jeff Beck's There and Back, and then he did 2 Dixie Dregs records. Well, he contacted me years after we had worked with him in the late 70s, and he said he's doing a project where he's been asked to choose 6 of the drummers that he's worked with in his career for some company that does like drum loops and that kind of thing. And the other drummers, I believe, were Billy Cobham, Simon Phillips, Terry Bozzio, the drummer from Supertramp, and then David Bowie's drummer from the Spiders from Mars years. So when we took a lunch break, I told the story of when Ringo came into the studio and I was just playing right? And Ken Scott is laughing, the engineer and other people working were laughing. So after lunch, when we went back to continue the recording, where I was just, you know, trying to play as closely as possible the drum parts that I played 20, 30 years earlier on those records. And so when we got back after lunch break, Ken said, Rod, look, you just ate a bunch of food. Why don't we start, with one of the easy ones? Why don't we do Gina Lola Breakdown, the country song? So that's so I'm going oompa, 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 oompa.
Right.
And my eyes pop out of my head as the studio door opens, and who walks in but none other than Keith Emerson.
Oh, man.
Right? Like,
you can't make this up.
no,
That's
right.
crazy.
Like the guy, the prog keyboardist of all time.
Right.
I mean, that is until my buddy Jordan Rudess.
Of course, right? Yeah.
Filling
Theater guy,
that space now.
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe that I was right back in the Ringo.
Right.
So when I finished playing, they said, "Hey, Rod, someone wants to say hello." And then Keith Emerson came in the studio, and we talked for a couple of minutes, and I rehashed that story. I think it's even on YouTube. I think they filmed it. If you type in my name and Keith Emerson's name, it comes up. But the one other funny part of that story is I said, "Hey, Keith, I don't know if you remember, but several years ago at a NAMM show, you headlined a concert that Jordan Rudess and I played with you. We opened the show along with Niacin, Billy Sheen's band, with Dennis Chambers." And so Keith said, Jordan Rudess, do you know, like on his new album, The Road Home, he does a 20-minute version of Tarkus? And I said, yes, I do, because I'm the drummer on it. Right. So he said,
Oh my God.
It was that was a great moment.
It was like full circle stuff happening. That's crazy.
Yeah. Such a fan of his.
That's so cool.
Brilliant musician.
Yeah. I was trying to find a picture of that kit that Terry sent you. If you give me 1 second, I almost think I might have it where I can pull it up. Trying to see here. Hang on. Yeah, it's still not pulling up correctly, but I did run across it, and I am looking at it myself right now. I could see the Mitch Mitchell photos all the way around in the bass drum, and some of the other ones. You're holding a snare drum in this photo. So freaking cool. And then I did find the suspending drums picture as well. But again, unfortunately, what's coming through to me, it's not the proper format. But maybe we could show it a little bit later, because I do want people to see that. And also just to plug Terry Gwain, because I mean, he was one of the first people who supported Breast Cancer Can Stick It back in 2013. I mean, we became a nonprofit in 2013. That was 12 years ago. And he provided an old school like bass drum that had the Breast Cancer Can Stick It logo in it, and then all around the edges, all these photos of me and bald and going through breast cancer and all that stuff, and playing drums and whatnot, and donated that, and we actually had those at auctions and stuff. So that guy's such a great guy. I don't know if he's still doing that stuff or not, though. Have you talked to him lately?
Not in the last few months. He's such a sweet guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like 6'6" or something.
Giant.
But
Yeah.
He's a teddy bear.
Yeah. Super cool, dude. Super
Beautiful
cool.
human being.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so back to when you first saw the show and you got the drums and all that stuff. And so clearly you stayed connected to drums, and your parents continued to buy you more and more fun stuff so that you could continue playing and grow as a drummer. What was the first like band that you were in? Do you recall?
Yeah, my first band was me and my friend Kenny Gross, who played the sousaphone, like a tuba.
Really?
Yeah, and you'd think he would maybe bring it over to my house, but no, I had to bring my drums over to his house. And really, all you really do with a sousaphone is go. So we would do a lot of oompa songs, country music.
Back again to the oompa. It's like,
Yeah,
is that all?
yeah.
Is that all you do, Rod? Come on.
Pretty much. That was the first band.
Wow, that's not what I expected you to say, man. I expected there to be at least a guitar player involved somewhere.
not in that one, no. But my next band, we called ourselves The Modest, and I played guitar in it.
No way.
Yeah. For I had gotten, my mom is the person that I get my musical abilities from.
Uh-huh.
She had a nylon string classical guitar, and she played
Nice.
in a guitar mandolin orchestra. And one day when I was about 12, when my parents were gone for the night, I just picked up the guitar and really became enamored with it and didn't put it down. They came home late, hours later, and there I still was. There probably was blood on my fingers, from the beginning
You're
of
right.
calluses.
Yeah, you're trying to
Um,
get it all figured out and just slicing your fingers all up.
yeah, but I never lost the love of the instrument. Not that I can do much other than play chords. I never learned to do leads, but for my bar mitzvah, they bought me an electric guitar, a Gretsch electric guitar, and a Fender Vibrolux Reverb tube amp.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and so then when I formed my next band, I wanted to be the rhythm guitarist in the
Nice.
band.
Uh-huh.
And a friend of mine, Barry Rakowski, he was probably the best drummer in our town then. His father was also a drummer and like a Buddy Rich kind of drummer. So they had that crazy technique where
That
it seemed
awesome
so
flair.
effortless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Barry played drums in The Modest, and we were about 14 years old, maybe 15 years
Nice.
old. And then really my most serious band that I did before I left Plainview, to go to the University of Miami when I was around 20, was a band. We were so into Jethro Tull, and on the first Jethro Tull album, on one of the songs, there's an instrument that's not the flute. It sounds more like a kazoo, and Ian Anderson writes, on the album that such and such a song, I used the claghorn, and Jeffrey made it. So our band needed a name, and we said, we're Jeffrey. We thought that was so cool. And
Jeffrey made it, so now we're Jeffrey.
yeah.
Nice.
So my friend Glenn was the singer. My friend Bob Hines, who I've reconnected with in the last 10 years, we get together a lot. And this bass player, Mickey Cernigliaro, who we're not sure if Mickey is still alive or not. But Glenn, who was our singer, took up the flute, but he had a real junky flute, right? And one day he showed up to rehearsal with a magnificent flute. And we said, where'd you get that? And he was really trying to be evasive. And then we finally beat it out of him. He told me he broke into the band room in our high school and stole it. Now, the horrible part of the story was, at that time, not only was I in the band, right? I was the president of the band, and Glenn broke into the band room and stole the freaking flute. It was Kenny Rosenthal's flute. And when I went to rehearsal, the next day after school, there was all this commotion. And what was going on? Oh my God, there's Kenny Rosenthal in tears because his flute was stolen. And it's like, Rod, what should we do? I'm the president of the band. I'm
Oh,
supposed to
God.
be a leader.
Yeah.
And, it was unbelievable. The guilt
Oh, my
must have been
gosh.
pouring out of me because I'm a pretty honest person.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I forget, like, if I made, the flute suddenly reappear, back in the band room, or if it was just, hey, I found out that his insurance will pay for it because the flute was insured. So anyway,
That's funny,
I
man.
haven't thought of that story.
I'm like, it's funny, Rod, because when I had Jill on earlier, she had all these unique and crazy stories, and it must be just unique and crazy night. And also, it's also the night that we don't recommend certain things that people are saying. Would you not recommend that you steal a flute, please?
Yeah, no, stealing's not good.
It's not the way to go, people. No, don't do
It's
that.
bad, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. That's awesome. All right, so now you got your band with the flute. What kind of music are you guys playing at this point? Is it original?
Progressive.
You guys are like, let's go.
Yeah, so I forget what cover tunes we would do, but we wrote a suite, like a 20-minute long suite. Um, um, and then we played it in Battle of the Bands.
Oh yeah, the Battle of the Bands.
And we made it to the Nassau County finals.
Wow.
And we didn't win in the finals, but like we were really, really good. But just like Jethro Tull did, we put on a production. So one of my best friends, Randy Lane, was an amazing unicycle rider. And so he dressed up in a costume.
This
and
is
in
great.
In the middle of our set,
You're like, this fits. It makes sense.
He's being chased by our friend Sammy, who like has a spear or something.
Right.
And, we had a whole skit going on. So
oh God.
What great memories. I wish, there were cell phones back then because, there's no video of any of this stuff.
Everything is captured now, and back then it's you can't find, a lot of times you can't even find photos of anything like that. It's it's tough, but man, what a memory. I can picture it, although the song that's playing in my head is so it's another song, of course.
This was like, I think it was called the Jeffrey Suite,
so
and it had
awesome.
3 parts and all kinds of
crazy stuff.
cool sections.
Yeah, that's amazing. So after that band, what happened next?
We graduated high school. Everybody went their separate ways, and I had the best upbringing that a kid could have. Loving parents that were so supportive of me wanting to make it in music, and so I was the only one of my friends that couldn't wait to leave home to go away to college. So I went to a local community college. My dad was a professor there, and I just took all music courses, or mostly music courses. And, the one mentor teacher that I had, when I finished up the 2 years, he said, "Are you going for your, undergraduate bachelor's degree in music?" I said, "Yeah, I just don't know where to go." And he said, "You should go to the University of Miami in Florida." He said, "That's where I went, and they have an amazing, contemporary jazz music program." So I said, "Okay." And I went there. But at this point,
were you always attracted to all different styles of music?
Yeah.
Did you find? Yeah, that's amazing. That's such a great thing.
Yeah, and it's really smart for, younger musicians now that have the dream of having a career in music. Really try to take in as much music as possible. It's great to have, that one particular genre or style that you love to death, but try to keep an open mind to learn as much variety of music as possible, because it could come in handy down the road.
And all the studying that you were doing outside of just studying drums, studying music in general and other instruments, and probably a lot of music theory and things like that. That's good as well. Just sort of make yourself a really well-rounded musician,
You know what? I have a memory of the first few days of Theory 101 at Nassau Community College. You knew who the drummers were because they were lining the back wall with their chairs back. They were just on the back legs with their heads up in the air staring into space, because they didn't know what it meant when the teacher said, "Okay, in a major scale, you have a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half." They don't know what a step is or a half step. But I had already, taken piano lessons, and had now in my teens, I took back an interest in the piano, whereas a little kid, I hated it. Now, all of a sudden, I loved it. And I auditioned to get into the University of Miami on drums. But when I got there, I asked if there's any way that I could spend more of my time learning jazz piano. And so they allowed it. So they hooked me up with the jazz piano teacher.
Wow.
And from day one, a whole new world was opening up to me. 'Cause I really thought in jazz, which I had an affinity for. I loved, like, when I'd hear bebop music, right? Or some of the more contemporary Miles Davis stuff. It took me to that good place. But I thought in jazz, after the sax player or whoever plays the head of a song, it just becomes a free-for-all. And I didn't know that there were chord changes, that you follow the chord changes, that, the melody of the song was played to. I just thought the piano player just hits any notes. Bang, da, 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 da. I didn't know it's all based on.
Yeah, there was some structure behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so between the private lessons with this teacher by the name of Vince Lawrence and Jazz Piano 101, where class was held on Wurlitzer electric pianos. When on day one, it's like, okay, the third and the seventh define the chord, right? So you can have a major third or a minor third. The fifth is meaningless. You don't ever even need to hit the fifth. It's not important. There's the root, but you don't have to hit the root if you're the piano player, because the bass player is hitting the root. You have to just make sure to hit the third and the dominant seventh, which is the flat seventh, or the major seventh. And then from there, the things that like light you up, where you hear a chord and you go, oh my God, what's that? That's the ninth and the sharp 11th and the 13th. I was freaking out.
Wow. Yeah.
Like a baby getting up and taking its first few steps,
Wow.
It was the greatest time in my life. So I was also in a jazz improv class. This was I'm trying to think if it was my second semester of the first year or the first semester of my second year. So these are my third and fourth years of college. And I think it was the first time I was in this improvisation class that had a dozen guitarists and me and one other piano player and a few other people. And I was admiring one of the guitarists among the 12 of them. And he didn't sound like them. They all played fat, hollow body Gibson guitars with all the treble off. But this guy played a beat up Fender Telecaster, had a Stratocaster neck, Gibson frets, a bunch of pickups. He had long blonde hair. We didn't know each other. I was just admiring him as the teacher would yell at him at every lesson because he didn't sound like, a traditional jazz guitarist. He came over to me one day and said, hey, somebody told me you play the drums. I only know you as a piano player. I have a band. Can you fill in for my drummer who's a surfer? And he hurt himself. And so I went, it was Steve Morse. And I went
Oh my gosh.
to the rehearsal, and it was what was to become the Dixie Dregs.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was the next, died and gone to heaven experience that I had. And, the only music that I was listening to back then was the Mahavishnu Orchestra with Billy Cobham on drums. And these guys were doing cover versions of Mahavishnu songs. And there was an electric violinist.
You're
in the
like,
band.
it was like they were placed in front of you. Like,
Ah,
it was just like perfect for y'all. I
yes, it
mean,
was like,
wow. Yeah, exactly. Wow. No, that is so cool. So you guys met in college. That's crazy. I had
yeah,
no idea. So how old were you guys then? In like your early 20s, I guess?
21
Yeah, yeah.
around. And so, so 2 years later, when some of us graduated, we're like talking about, so what now? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And we decided to go for it as the Dixie Dregs. And so 3 out of 5 of the people in the band lived in Augusta, Georgia. And so me and the violinist, I'm a New Yorker, Long Island, and the violinist, Alan Sloan, was from Miami Beach. So Alan and I rented a little funky ranch house on 2 acres in Evans, Georgia, which was next door to our bass player, Andy West's parents' house that was on 20 acres or 10 acres. and his parents owned this rental house and rented it to us. So we lived there.
That's lucky.
And that's where the band rehearsed.
Wow.
And Steve Morse, from the time that he was a teenager, was a legend in Augusta, Georgia. And so there was a rock club called the Whipping Post that would hire us for 6 days, for a week every month, and paid the band $1,000 for 6 nights.
That's big money back then, for sure.
Yeah, this was 1975.
That's
fall of
big
75.
money. And were y'all doing covers and originals, or just covers at that time?
Well, the covers were Mahavishnu covers, or an Allman Brothers song, or Peaches and Regalia from Frank Zappa, and then all Steve Morse compositions.
Right. Wow.
So we didn't have people setting up our gear back then, so it was just the 5 of us. And so from the $1,000, we'd each get our $200, or if we had a local guy managing us, immediately he was getting his, $150, his 15%, and then we'd divide the rest. And then we just got on a circuit playing 5 or 6 southern states, where back then in the mid 70s, a club sight unseen would hire a band and pay you $100, regardless of how many hundreds of miles you drove to get to them. I have 3 pieces of paper about this big, where back then, from the first gig, I wrote down the name of the club, the town, how much money we grossed, and how much each of us got.
How cool is that to have?
Yeah, I have it somewhere in a pile over there, but I haven't seen it in a while. But a lot of, these clubs would pay $100. And the funny story that I like to tell, because, from $100, you have to pay the gas for your car, but gas was only about 28 cents a gallon back then. And a Motel 6 was about $20. So between the hotel and the gas, there was still $60 left, where we each make $12 for the show. And if we brought one friend with us to help us with the gear and maybe mix sound, so we'd each make $10. So in 1976, now we had a 2-person road crew, and we had an 18-foot box truck that one of our crew members, his name was Twiggs Linden, and he had been with the Allman Brothers for many years, and really tour managing them until he went to prison for murdering a club owner.
Oh my God.
Who refused to pay the band what the contract said.
Oh my God.
I'm going off topic a
yeah,
little,
but still, that's crazy. Again, this is tonight for the crazy conversations.
Yeah. So Twiggs, I've never met a person who lived life truly in black and white, and black and white meaning there's the truth and there's everything else. And so in most situations, there's no need for a discussion. So when it came to a booking contract, if the contract says the band will be paid $1,000 to play your club, and the club owner's signature is on the contract, nowhere in there does it say, well, if only a handful of people show up, the club owner doesn't have to pay you the $1,000.
Or if you get rained out or something like that, you get it. You sign the contract and you're going to get that.
Right. So in the early years of the Allman Brothers, they didn't draw people, just like all new bands don't draw people. So at the end of the night, Twiggs went to collect the money, and the club owner said, "This is all I'm giving you." And Twiggs said, "Yeah, but that's not what the contract says." And the club owner, who turned out, they found out later on, was in the mafia.
Yowza.
Yeah. He said, I don't care what the contract says. And, Twiggs very calmly said, "Is that your signature?" And the guy went, "Yeah, get out of here. This is all you're getting." And when it was all over, the club owner lay on the floor dead from a knife wound. So Twiggs went to prison for murder. and got out a year later on a temporary insanity clause and found his way to the Dixie Dregs. Now, we didn't know any of this at first.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, one thing for sure, that guy's going to have your back probably, but still not great. Kids don't do this at home either. No stealing of flutes and no murdering of booking agents or managers. Oh my God, man. We're hitting it all.
He's every band's dream to have somebody like that who will literally kill for you. So, I mean, I have a handful of Twig stories that I could tell when he became our tour manager. Insane, but that's how he worked. I'll tell two very quick ones. Okay, so we arrived at a club. It was really cool up in Boone, North Carolina, a geodesic dome. And we got there and Twigs took out his tape measure and we saw him measuring the width of the stage. And then he went over to talk to the manager of the club. And we overheard the conversation and he said, look, unless you let me take down the wall over there, we can't play because the contract states the band needs 40 feet width for the stage and there's only 37 feet. And so we made the mistake of walking over to them and said, Twigs, it's not a big deal. We could play on a 37-foot stage. He dragged us to the side and he said, don't you ever question me when I'm talking with the manager or owner of a club. You hired me to do a job. Let me do my job. If you can play on a 37-foot stage, we'll change the contract and say the band needs 37 feet. If you could play on a 20-foot stage, we'll change it to 20. But while it says 40 feet, you will not play a show unless the stage is 40 feet wide.
Like you said, very black and white. Yeah.
Black and white. I don't know. Yeah, I'd never met anybody like that.
Yeah. What? That's crazy.
One of the guys in our band got it so riled at him, some months later and said, you know what, Twigs, if I had a gun, I'd shoot you right here. So we didn't know he carried a loaded pistol on the road. He said, hold on a minute. And he went, off the truck, came back, handed the band member the gun and said, all you got to do is cock and shoot. Every chamber's loaded. Go. Shoot me. Kill me. Like a guy was shaking.
Whoa.
And, as calm as can be, Twig said, I don't understand. You said if you had a gun, you would shoot me.
And you're not shooting me. What happened?
So, he lived life literally.
Wow. The legend of Twigs. It's going to be a book on its own.
Look at this. I don't know if you can see this.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, I can see it.
I mean, his head's a little, there's a shadow or shade on it.
Yep.
He Twigs.
That's so crazy, man.
Yeah, probably around 1978.
Whoa, what a trip. I love that you have that right there. That's nuts.
We loved Twigs.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, he looked after you guys well, it sounds like.
Sure did.
So how long were you guys touring around before you really noticed the change? What was that change?
Well, the first big change is, when you get your first record deal. And, we were on this circuit of playing the Carolinas, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. And I've told this story so many times. One night at the Exit Inn, a very famous small club in Nashville, we were the opening act for some, they call them super groups, when this guy from this band and this guy from this band put something together. We were doing our set and someone in our band called a band meeting and said, don't look at the bar, but that's the piano player from the Allman Brothers sitting there. Okay, so let's kick it into high gear. And so we finished the set, playing our hearts out. And then right when we got off stage, Chuck Leavell, the piano player from the Allman Brothers, and Twigs Linden, who was with him, we didn't know him, came over to us and said, like, who are you guys? We thought, you know, we had a night off on tour with the Allman Brothers. We thought we were going to have a beer and see some local country music. And you guys are like this melodic Mahavishnu instrumental fusion band. Where can we buy your records? And we said, we don't have a record deal. And that's how we got our first record deal.
No kidding. Wow. Just like that.
Yeah. Okay. And so, you know, these are stories that musicians with the dream need to hear, because every musician that has had some kind of success has their own unique individual lucky break stories to tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
But one thing that to me seems super consistent is that each person has a work ethic that's just unmatched. You know, I'm sure there's some out there that fell into it somehow, but like, you know, everybody that I've talked to, it's like they work so hard and they study their craft and they do the things that you've done. You know, people like Kenny is the person I go back to a lot, who just works so hard and just keeps learning and still learning, you know, and just really envelops their life around their instrument and their love for music. And but you're right, the stories where they have their break, they're all very different. You know, you never know when it's going to happen or who you're going to meet.
And
you know?
that's the key.
Mhm.
That's the key. You don't know when the door will open. And so, you know, the saying, luck favors the prepared, rings true.
Yep. It's crazy. I love hearing all the stories like that, though. And so after you guys got the record deal and you went in and you recorded, that was the first time you guys had ever recorded together?
We had, you know, been in a couple of studios to do a song.
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah. But this was the first real, you know, recording studio.
Right. I bet your eyeballs were
company.
just like wide as can be. You're just like, oh, yes, this is awesome.
That was the first time all of us had ever been to LA. You
Wow.
know?
Yeah.
So we felt really, really cool, but I mean, you know, honored
Yeah.
and excited. But then, you know, what typically happens is not much. When your record comes out, you think you're going to be the new kid on the block, you know, and your record's going to just soar and move up on the charts. But like, we didn't sell any records. And, you know, we learned pretty quickly that the record label and radio and record stores didn't know how to categorize a band that has one country song, you know, one classical duet, one funky song, one ethereal type song, and then a couple of hard backbeat kind of songs. So are you a rock band or a jazz band or a country
Like,
band?
yeah, where do we throw you? Right.
Right. So which part of the record store do we put your record in?
Right.
And you're called the Dixie Dregs, so you must be a country band.
Right. Dixie. Yep.
And that was just a joke, you know, because Andy West, our bass player, and Steve Morse, guitarist, they're both Northerners whose families, when they were in high school, relocated to Augusta, Georgia, and they found each other and started playing music together. And they had a band called Dixie Grit. And when Dixie Grit broke up, the remains of that band were Steve and Andy. And, you know, the definition of dregs is like the remains or the bottom of the beer keg or the lowest of the low. And they thought, wow, we play such, you know, beautiful, sophisticated music. How funny is it calling it dregs? And we're not a country band, but we're doing it in the South. So let's be the Dixie Dregs. You know?
I mean, it worked. It worked great for you guys. I mean, it's such
I mean, I know it's a politically incorrect word these days.
Right.
And back when we did our 5th and 6th albums, when we were on Arista Records with Clive Davis, we dropped the Dixie. But then years later, you know, we brought it back just saying that, like, we started as the Dixie Dregs, you know, no offense meant. It's more like just inside silliness within the band. So it just came back.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I remember that Kip told me that when he asked you to be in the band, he was quite a fan of the Dixie Dregs, right?
I don't think, no, Kip had never heard of the Dixie Dregs.
Are you kidding
So-
me?
Yeah, so like, that's one of my other lucky breaks when the Dregs and then the Steve Morse band that started when the Dregs went on an indefinite hiatus in 1983. Steve said, "Hey, I'm going to do a trio. Rod, do you want to come along and be the drummer? I'm getting a new bass player." So I did that for 2 records. And then the group Kansas were reforming, and they called Steve to see if he'd like to take Kerry Livgren's place, which, I gave him my blessing. I said, "Steve, this is such an amazing opportunity. You've got to do this. They're such a great band." But so I now was bandless. 11 years out of college, it was my first moment.
Yeah, you're still honestly pretty young, and
33.
yeah.
33. And
Yeah.
I said, 30, but how old was I? 85, 32. It's like, or 30, 32. What am I going to do? The last 45 shows, I think, that the band did, the Steve Morse band, was being the support band for Rush on their Power Windows tour.
Dang. That's amazing.
That's when I started showing up in the drumming polls.
Uh-huh.
And I think won my first modern drummer poll.
Well,
it was because I was Neil Peart's opening drummer.
Yeah, and you were not some slump. People were like, "Oh my God, who's this guy?"
If you think about it, how many opportunities are there for a drummer to play in front of several thousand drummers? Because every Rush
That's
audience,
right. Yep, it's full.
they're all air drumming.
Yeah,
Every
they're drummers or they're bass players generally.
right?
Yeah.
And so, I think it was 45 shows that we did with them. So, if it was even 3,000 drummers a night, that's like 125,
Yeah.
30.
Was that like around 86-ish?
Yeah, it was the end of 85.
Okay, because I went to that tour in Dallas, so I saw
We
you
did
guys.
2 nights.
Yeah.
We did 2 nights.
I went to a lot of concerts back that year, and so I actually got to pull up I've got that ticket somewhere. I got to pull it up and find him and take a picture and send it to you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? I'm like, whoa, dude, I was there. Wait a minute, it's crazy.
And so Neil Peart was an extraordinary human being. He's another one of I know a handful of people who are constantly multitasking, and they can do everything that they multitask at a super high
Like a
masterful level.
Yeah.
Steve Morse is one, because not only is he to me like one of the greatest guitarists, he's certainly the most versatile guitarist who's ever graced planet Earth, because he's gone out on classical guitar tours with famous classical guitarists, and he could chicken pick with the best fast country chicken pickers, and he was in Deep Purple for 28 years and Dixie Dregs and Steve Morse, doing the whole fusion thing. And Kip Winger is another one of those people, right? Who's not just this unbelievable performing rock artist, writing some of the most brilliant music, both with Winger and his solo work, which is nothing like Winger, but he's now like a bona fide classical music composer.
Yes, right.
Nominated for a Grammy for best classical.
I know, it's mind blowing, right? Man.
And there's other things that he does. And so Neil Peart's the other guy who was not just this, amazing drummer and lyricist, but he was like this avid bicycle rider, motorcyclist, right? When he lost his wife and daughter, he rode 50,000 miles.
I remember, I think it was called Ghost Rider, the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to send me his books, and we established a very nice friendship from way back then. And then we were, I was in touch with him when his wife and daughter passed, and then he was in touch with me when Michelle passed away. Just an extraordinary guy. So I'll do a quick story. So that was 85 and 86, the beginning of 86. I hadn't been in a rock band yet, right? It was, 12, 13 years into my career. I then moved to New York to find the next thing. And my next lucky break was being in the right place in the right time, meeting Kip and Reb in a management office where I was hoping to get a Guitaro tour, a 5-week Guitaro tour, playing wine and cheese music, the new age music. And I didn't get the gig because they had already chosen musicians from California. Casey Sherrill played drums on it, who became one of my colleagues at Berkeley years later. And I thanked him for getting the Guitaro gig, because were it not for him, I would have done it and I wouldn't have met Kip and Reb.
Look at that. That's so crazy, man. All the spider web of ways people connect. It's crazy.
It's nuts. And so I was inadvertently introduced to Kip and Reb. They were doing demos because they were being rejected by record labels with all the music that they were soliciting. Now I know they were demoing a version of Madeleine when I was introduced to them, and Kip had the faintest idea who I was, but Reb was like freaking out. He was so excited. He's saying, Kip, you know who this guy is? Like, he's the drummer.
It's like
he plays with Steve Morton.
Yeah.
And Kip, who he can have a very blasé manner.
Right.
He just said, hey, it's nice to meet you. I don't know who you are. Look at Reb.
Whatever.
He's so excited. So he was getting ready. They were getting ready to audition drummers because they were determined to get a record deal. They were not going to stop demoing songs until they got the job done and got signed. And he said, look, Reb is so excited. I have this list of all the New York drummers. But let's get together and jam soon. And so that's how I got the gig. But when I went in to jam with them, I had already been in New York for about a year and was, failing audition after audition because I really didn't have respect for what goes into being an effective rock drummer. I was coming from the fusion world,
right,
where it's all about playing busy,
right. And this
over
is like
the bar.
This is
over
like
the bar line.
Yeah, this is like just like boom, just like really 2/4 kind of whatever. There's nothing crazy going on.
Yeah, and so I failed the Billy Idol audition, and George Michael, and Patti Smythe, and Scandal, and Jolin Turner said I was the worst drummer he'd ever heard in his life.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah, that hurt. That one hurt.
Was it? Did you do you feel like you overplayed in retrospect, or?
I was not in a good mental state when I originally moved back to New York because I was sort of like, panicked. Like, I don't know, like, does the next thing come? How does it happen?
Right.
It's like, you're just floating in this abyss, not knowing, right?
Yeah.
But I was trying to meet musicians and hang with them and play with them. But when I would jam with them, I'd go pa for like a measure or two and then just start getting weird. I didn't have respect for simplicity,
right?
Or what is it? The
less is more. Yeah. The less is more, and just a solid beat with not a lot of flair, just kind of driving the beat and keeping the groove or whatever, but not doing a lot of extra. Like standard rock music thing. I mean, because you totally, it's like a different drummer really with Winger, but you still had your stuff in there where you're like, oh, what the heck just happened? Like where you do that turnaround in 17, and it's like what the hell just happened? Oh, that's Rod doing Rod, but it works. It sounds great,
Well, it's to Kip's credit that he asked me to join the band. Like when I went in there, he walked over to me and started pumping eighth notes. Don't, don't. You know, like can't get enough kind of
Right.
bass.
Yep.
And so I played what I call tried and true pattern number one. Pa, pa, you know, kick, snare,
Right.
kick, snare. That's all I did.
Yeah.
Sloshy hi-hat.
Yep.
And I didn't do a fill, and I hit uncomfortably hard. You know, and after like 10 or 20 seconds, he stopped and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm playing what I think is appropriate for the bass line that you're playing." He said, "Yeah, but Reb said you can do crazy stuff." I said, "I'm intentionally not doing that because I don't want to scare you away, because I'd really like to do a rock thing. You know, I've been in a different world for these last 13 years." So he said, "Look, you hit hard. It sounds great, but lose me." I went, "Really?" So then I just started doing fusion stuff. And I couldn't lose him. He's a true musician. And he said, "Oh, this is awesome. This is great." He said, you know, if you look at the Billboard charts, every other band is a metal band, whether it's, you know, Def Leppard, Kiss, Cinderella, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, you know, just
It was
go
the
down
80s.
list.
Yeah. Yep.
He said, so those are the bands that we're going to be lumped in with. But he said, I'm looking for ways that we could maybe have elements that those bands don't have. And it's not like we want the drums to play crazy all the time. Most of the time, it's going to just be like that first beat that you played. But there are going to be moments where, you know, we're going to want you to step out and do things that a rock listener, a rock audience has never heard before. And that's exactly what happened in those two measures in the song 17. You know, when we first cut the drums the first time through it, I didn't do that. And then, you know, Kip and the producer came back on Talkback and said, "Hey, when Reb is, you know, doing that lick after the guitar solo, can you do something that's never been done on a rock and roll record?"
You did too, man.
Well, so I said, "Yeah, give me a minute. Okay, I have an idea. I don't think you're gonna like it." And then I did it, and I saw like the heads disappeared, like they fell on the ground.
They were like, "Yes."
They were in hysterics, laughing, and so they loved it. And you know what's interesting? Because, you know, Reb is a fusion guitarist.
Oh, that guy's a master too.
If you hear his solo records, it's all about that kind of stuff. Reb was a little concerned. He was the one saying, "Hey, are you sure about this? Do you think that should be on the record?" And it ended up being on the record. And the really beautiful thing about it is there were literally hundreds and hundreds of musician fans that at our concerts would ask me about that. What's happening there? What time signature is that in? Why does it seem like the bottom drops out, especially the first time you hear it happen? You're so disoriented.
Right. It's you turn it completely around.
Yeah. And so I basically said to them, imagine taking a beat and delaying it by an eighth note. So instead of pa, pa, you go pa, pa.
Yep.
And I said, really, you know, in the world of progressive and fusion music and drumming, it's what you would call, you know, textbook 101. This is day one, what we're going to teach you when it comes to displacing a groove. We're moving the eighth note over one, delaying it. And I would start rattling off the names, you know, of drummers in the fusion world. I say, you know, like Vinnie Colaiuta and Dave Weckl.
And they're like, who?
Who? All they knew was Neil Peart.
Yep.
And
Stuart Copeland or something.
or maybe a few knew Mike Portnoy because Dream Theater's. Did their first record come
It
out
was
in
early 90s.
Yeah, so maybe he wasn't even out yet. So it was amazing to me. I was in this whole new arena,
Yeah.
music
Yep.
arena,
Yep.
and most of the fans didn't know who I was. So like in their mind, this is a new band. They might have known Kip and Paul because they played with Alice Cooper, but they didn't know who I was, and I don't think they knew who Reb was, even though Reb had already, ghosted on some rock records and been a studio musician, getting to use his name uh, in sessions.
I knew who you were when you got with Winger because I saw you on Modern Drummer magazine. Like, that's how I knew who you were, and so I knew that before you were in Winger, and I was like, wow, they've got this crazy masterful drummer playing in Winger. That's crazy, but it worked. It worked so well.
Hey,
And
I don't know if your audience knows, but like one of the first times you came out to a Winger show, you actually sat in with us and played on my left-handed drum set.
I did, man.
How did you do that? I mean, that's
Come on,
wow.
man. You're not allowed to act like you're all impressed with me, dude. I love you for doing that.
Well, I mean, I only bring it up because I hate to sit in. I'm so different than most people in the crowd who love if they're out and about and can have the opportunity
Right,
to
get
sit in and jam.
jump up
I just
on,
don't
yeah.
like doing it for a number of reasons. Like I like to be really with full confidence, having
Right,
been back
prepared or
warming
whatever.
up for
Yeah.
an hour or two.
Lots of
I don't
things.
like to just get on stage in front of an audience cold.
Yeah.
I don't feel good, and I don't know the music that I'm going to be playing. I might know the song, but I don't know how it starts. I don't know any of the intricacies within the song. I don't know how it ends. And there's a right-handed drum set, and then if I'm forced into it, typically, the drummer will go, "Oh my God, no problem. Let me help you turn it around." And then if God forbid I go to like change the height of the seat or the snare, like, oh my God, you have to mess with this stuff. And like, I want to scream and go,
Yeah.
I want to do this.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
now I'm the bad guy.
Well, it's funny because, like, locally here, we do a lot of that, like getting up and jamming with other local bands and stuff. We do a lot of it, and I know, like when I went to Bonzo Bash, Brian Sitchy used to put on that Bonzo Bash, and
I did a
I don't know
couple
if,
of them.
yeah, I don't know if you remember. Well, you would know then that like between each drummer, they'd have somebody out there with measuring tape and moving everything to their exact specs. I'm like, screw that, like just give me the drum set and tell me, say go, and I just get behind there and play. Well, because at Drumathon, we don't do that either. When we have the other drummers come, celebrity drummers come in for that, we don't measure everything. We're just like, here's the drum sets. And some people will move stuff, but generally speaking, people just like get back there and play or whatever. But hey, man, if you hadn't had the double pedal, I would have been screwed completely, because that's the only reason I could play on that lefty kit is because you had that double pedal. And so I used I used the secondary pedal as the main pedal, and then just had the hat open, and then just played open, like that. But I would have looked kind of silly if I had to do something on the ride. I don't think I did. I think I just rode on a crash at some point or something like that. But yeah,
you got the job done for sure.
Well, thank you. That was really nerve wracking to get up there and have you were playing cowbell behind me. Do you remember? You grabbed a cowbell and you're playing it. I was like, holy crap. Rod Morgenstein is playing cowbell behind me. What the hell is happening? So cool. I'm so honored to have had that opportunity. And we did it again a few years later at Lava Cantina.
Right.
And I mean, especially just the opportunity to plug the nonprofit. And you know how passionate I am about this. Every time I see you, I don't shut up about it. It's just
as you shouldn't.
Well, thank you. It's just such a passion for me. And, like you were talking earlier, the older we get, the more cancer we see. And I have 5 people very close to me right now who are metastatic stage 4 cancer. And it's just like, I can't do enough. I just want to do as much as humanly possible, not just in way of trying to help with research and trials, but also just to make their lives as good as they can be for as long as they can be,
Can I, yeah, on this subject, I want to say, my wife, Michelle, who was the love of my life, and we went steady when we were 13. We weren't together from 13 till, her passing just before her 53rd birthday, but we were together the majority of that time. So Michelle was diagnosed in 1983, which was 2 years after we got married. And, it started with a lumpectomy, and then 4 years later, a new primary came out. So she had the mastectomy, and then, some time after that, a new cancer showed up in her sternum. Okay, so when the cancer moves to another part of the body, I believe that's when they call it stage 4.
Yep,
right?
that's a metastatic, yes.
Okay, so Michelle lived with stage 4 cancer for probably nearly 15 years.
Wow.
And this is going back, like her diagnosis was 42 years ago. And so, the progress that's been made
Absolutely.
in breast cancer research, is like with a lot of the cancers is astounding. And so I just want to like put that out there that back then, because we stayed on top of things, diligently, whether it was, like seeing her oncologist, Dr. Tomeo, or taking her for the blood work or the CAT scans or da 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 da. She lived all those years with the cancer moving to other parts of her body. It then
Wow,
went to her
15.
liver,
Yeah.
and she still lived several years.
She's like, don't care, got life to live.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think, having the love and support of friends and family really plays a big part in that, so the person doesn't feel like that they're alone. I know, like the person, there's a part, of course, you feel alone because this thing is happening to you. But when there's, the people who love you that are just there for what, I'm here, just make the phone call, whatever. I think it's so important.
It makes a huge difference, man. It's the mental aspect of going through breast cancer is so hard, and to have that kind of support of friends and family, it's huge important.
Yeah, huge. And me and my friend Randy, the one who rode the unicycle in the Battle of the Bands, we're going to be going into Manhattan to visit our friend Ricky, who just had this procedure, for multiple myeloma. So
Wow.
he seems to be in good spirits, came through it okay. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are the days where they said, if you're going to have like a bad physical reaction to it,
Right.
it's going to happen in these 3 days. So we're hoping he's okay, and probably maybe Friday we'll go into the city.
That's awesome. I do think that's so important, and just keeping, those friends happy and whatever it is that they want, just helping to do whatever that is. And tell us a little bit, like, Rod, like whenever she was first diagnosed and going through treatment, I presume she went through chemotherapy.
Yeah, it was the first go around was radiation, then chemotherapy. Yes, and so before I forget, I wanted to tell what I said. It's not really.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, I want to hear. Yeah.
When Michelle was diagnosed, way back in 1983 with estrogen positive breast cancer, she said, I don't want people to know that I have cancer. Right. And I went, oh my God, like, I play in a band, and I'm in and out of town. And she said, I don't want anybody to know. I said, why? And she said, because people treat you differently when they know you have a disease like that. And she said, I don't want to constantly be reminded that I have cancer.
That's not the first time I've heard somebody say that either. I've known a lot of people say that.
And I understood, because, and it's it's not that people aren't well-meaning, but the first thing they might say when they see you, when they haven't seen you in a while, is, "Oh my God, you look so great." And it's like, "Oh, thank you for reminding me." You're
Right,
saying
that there might be, there might be a reason.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was, that was her reason. And so, like, of course, I had to live by her wishes. And so nobody in my bands knew that Michelle had cancer. Okay. So that was 1983, September of 83. Fast forward to, I get in Winger. We cut the drums at Atlantic Studios in Manhattan in January of 1988. And Michelle has a recurrence.
Oh gosh.
A new primary in the same breast, and now she has a mastectomy, and however many weeks or months later, they're going to put a balloon with a pump in to expand the
Right.
skin so they can put in an implant.
Right.
Okay. The Winger album comes out in August. I think she's got this balloon pump thing in. She has no hair, is wearing a wig, and Winger hits the road with the Scorpions in October.
How hard was that, man?
Well, okay,
For you and for her?
I'm not
Yeah.
finished. So now, no hair. I'm not sure if the chemotherapy treatments were still going on at that point. She's on the tour bus. It's a rock and roll band. Kip is like a zany maniac. He's grabbing her hair, just wanting to pull her hair, having fun.
Oh no.
Flipping out, and I'm over there like holding her, because he didn't know. He would have flipped out if we told him, Kip,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Kept this secret until not far from the end. 20 years.
Wow. Wow.
December will be 20 years.
But that's what she wanted, like
Yeah.
to keep it between you guys, and she didn't want that reminder. And also, the person who I talked to earlier, she said she just didn't want people, just coddling her, and like bringing things to her all the time and just doing all this stuff. She didn't want to be treated any different. She just wanted to kind of like sail under the radar and do her thing. But so how many people do you think did know that she had breast cancer or cancer at all?
Like a handful of her close friends. I was allowed to tell a couple of my friends, and the family knew.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember when she was going through chemo? Was there any point that stands out to you as either significant in a good or a bad way? Stands out to you?
I mean, I have a great memory of us going for her chemo at her doctor's office, and directly from there taking her to the Nassau Coliseum to see Robert Plant with Mr. Big opening.
Nice.
And
great lineup.
And yeah, there's some great story with that. But so we had backstage passes, and so she and I were not on stage during Robert Plant's show, but we were off the stage on the ground level, but we were the only two people standing there. And in the middle of his show, where he's walking from side to side, he came to the side of the stage, locked eyes with her, and did his Robert Plant bow that he does. So now, like, Robert Plant loves, at least as I understand it, dark-haired women with olive skin. And that was Michelle. And she had met him some years, maybe a year or two earlier, when Winger was on the road and he was on tour, and he played the Meadowlands in New Jersey. And a friend of hers who worked at Atlantic Records took her in to the show and took her to the backstage meet and greet, where Robert Plant was meeting winners of that Led Zeppelin Cadillac Escalade contest or whatever.
Gotcha.
But so, yeah, there was maybe a room with 30, 40 people. And she was sitting down, and when Robert Plant was brought in the room, he walked over to her, bent down, took her hand and said, "Hi, I'm Robert."
Oh my
Right?
God.
And for years,
Uh-huh.
I have that picture. I had that picture of her with a picture was taken.
Uh-huh.
I had it on my refrigerator
Oh,
for,
that's
for a
fabulous.
lot of years, a
Uh-huh.
lot of. But so this was maybe 2 years later,
Uh-huh.
um, that I took her right after chemotherapy to to the show, and then like I don't know what it was because we were standing there while this was happening, and she said, "Do you see what's happening? Are you checking this out?" I went, "I see it. I see it." It was so wonderful.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, yeah.
How fun. Well, what a wonderful life you guys had together. It's so cool that you were together for so long and that you even if you just knew each other since 13 to have a relationship for a lot of that time. What a blessing that is.
And you know, all of the musicians in all of my bands loved her. She was like she was the antithesis of when you hear, you know, the Yoko Ono kind of
Yeah,
stories.
total
Um,
opposite.
I mean, she and Steve Morse were like, she was like, I feel like she was like the shoulder for him to cry on, you know, like, and they would have really deep discussions. And she was very close with Kip. Um, it was great when she'd come out on the road, like nobody, you know, would roll their eyes or go, "Oh my God, I can't believe a wife is out or a girlfriend is out," you know, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
she just
That
more fit in. She was just kind of part of the family.
totally. Well, you know, and maybe partially because of her having cancer, um, she would make the other person feel so special. She didn't want to talk about herself. It's like, "Hey, tell me what's going on in your life," you know? And everybody wants to talk about themselves, you know, we're also self-centered. And she was the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So it worked out great.
And she wanted to learn about people and get to know folks and let them talk. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're actually we went over a lot, Rod, because you and I haven't talked in a long time, and we had a lot of ground to cover. But I don't want to end the show without giving you a chance to talk a little bit about the Morgenstein tool.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
because it's so freaking cool. So I'm gonna let you talk about it for a second. I'm gonna bring it up on the screen too in a minute.
okay. So I'd say, you know, going back probably between 30 and 40 years, being a drummer, you know, something will eventually go wrong with the drum set. And, you know, whether it was, you know, my hi-hat cymbal that as I'm stomping my foot on the hi-hat would just be creeping up the rod, um, or a cymbal stand wing nut that I haven't loosened in some time, try to loosen it. And then like, you know, I can't loosen it and I hurt my fingers and then clumsily would take the drumsticks, you know, put it over the wing nut to try to loosen it, and then various other issues that every drummer is faced with. I had come up like decades ago with the concept of having like a survival toolkit that has the handful of tools that every drummer will need at some point. And several years ago, I was having dinner with someone who I met who used to fly from Michigan to New York when Michelle and I first moved back, and to to be employed and make money. I was teaching at the Drummers Collective in Manhattan and the Long Island Drum Centers. And you know, some people would literally travel from out of town to come in to take lessons. And so there's one such person, his name is Jim Meradian, who you've met at the Nashville Drum Show, right? The Music City Drum Show. Um, I was having dinner with him. He drove to Pittsburgh a few years ago to see a Winger show, and I had the night off, and so we went to the most amazing Thai restaurant for dinner. And over dinner, I was telling him, you know, my frustration that I've had this idea for years uh, for tools, and that's where like the idea to start a company happened. And the concept of a toolkit morphed into, hey, you know what? Why don't, instead of like having a screwdriver, you know, and a pair of pliers, why don't we think more in terms of one-of-a-kind tools uh, that can be lifesavers for drummers?
I'm
And
sure. I'm
and so,
showing the wing thing on the screen right now too. So,
oh, cool,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, so and so the first tool that came about after like probably 2 or 3 years of, research and design and prototypes and yeah, is the wing thing. And it very simply loosens and tightens wing nuts. All right, so someone might say, wing nuts, how many wing nuts are there on a drum set? Well, a cymbal stand might have 5 of them. If you have a cymbal boom stand, it's got at least 5 wing nuts. And if you have, I don't know, 7 or 8 cymbal stands in your setup, right there, you're dealing with upwards of 40 wing nuts. Then the hi-hat has a few of them, but especially, for the top cymbal on the hi-hat. And then the tom mounts, and then the that are on the bass drum and on the tom toms themselves. And then the 3 or 4 legs on the floor tom stands. Like, there's wing nuts everywhere.
And they're like the most faulty part. It feels like it's the thing that you're always having to tighten over and over again. And when you use your hands, you can only get it so tight. You know.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And so, you know, so the gentlest crank to tighten or loosen the wing nut is all that's needed. So when someone says, "Oh, say goodbye to all your wing nuts, you're going to destroy them," that's sort of like, like the argument of, "Hey, this coffee burned my tongue." Well, yeah, coffee is hot when it first comes out of the pot, and you got to do like a safety sip first to make sure it's okay. You don't guzzle the hot coffee. Well, of course, any tool can damage what it's being used for if you over apply it. You can strip anything. So I think that's a ridiculous comment that I've heard a couple of times. This tool is a lifesaver, and more and more drummers and techs are starting to use it. Jimmy Clark, who's Lars Ulrich's drum tech, has 6 of them. So Metallica has 4 drum sets on their stages, in their stadium tour. And Jimmy has 1 parked at each drum set, and then he's got a couple for his own drumming needs. Dream Theater's tech, Jose, how does he pronounce his name? Baracchio, I think. He's got one that he's using for Mike Portnoy's drum set. Dave Nestor uses it in Disturbed. Mike Mangini, has done a really, really nice video for us. Mike was the drummer in Dream Theater for, wow, a decade and a half or something. My friend Mike Tirana, who's played with Yngwie Malmsteen and tons of other drummers, he did like an hour-long video, singing its praises. Ray Luzier and Korn, got the wing thing. Casey Grillo from Queensryche, and Francis Ruiz from Buck Cherry. These are just
wow. Yeah, but that's so many folks are using it, and it is such an important tool because, man, I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times it's happened where the cymbal just flops down, and it's like if you just have that extra little nudge that can provide, it's tight enough to where it's not going to just fall over while you're playing, and things aren't going to get as loose. She'll be able to tighten it tighter. I know a lot of people always use like 2 drumsticks on either side of a wing nut, and then they do that, but there's a lot of times there's not room for that. But the tool itself is actually slender. You can get it into areas. I've seen some other kind of similar products, but you have to have more depth to get to it. But yours is something that is slender, and you can slip down in an area wherever you might need it.
Exactly. And I wanted to say, a bunch of guitar centers are carrying it in their drum department now. And then the Europe version of Sweetwater, they're called Thomann. They carry it. We have a bunch of drum shops across the country that are carrying it, and some in Canada. And I think we just opened up a shop in Puerto Rico. So it's really starting to happen. Everything is just moving in the upward direction. And we're hopefully getting close to start producing tool number 2, which, funny, it is called the Rod Driver. and we're hoping that it will revolutionize the drum key or the concept
Oh,
of the
nice.
drum key.
I can't
Um,
wait. Can't wait to see that. That's awesome.
yeah. So we're very excited about that, and we shall see how it goes.
That's amazing. And for those of you that want to check it out, you can go to morgensteintool.com, morgensteintool.com. Check that out. They've got it for sale right there. You can purchase it right there online, PayPal or other ways that you can make payments for that and check it out. And you'll have to let me know when the next tool comes out so that I can be sure to share that with folks, because I want to make sure the word gets out. And obviously you guys have a booth that you'll put at different shows. Are you guys going to be at NAMM next year? Or I know you'll probably do the drum show in Nashville again.
Yeah, probably. I have to speak with Jim. You know, he's really, I mean, God bless him. He's up at the crack of dawn and he's in the office, you know, until long after the sun's gone down. I feel badly for him, but he's such a believer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What can you say? That's awesome.
Yeah. We will try to do as many shows as we can.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'll always post pictures of me visiting your booth on our Breast Cancer Can Stick It Facebook and other social media channels so that people can see it there too. But man, thanks so much. I'm like sitting here thinking, I'm like, I got to watch the replay because we talked about so many things. It's like, I want to go back and hear some of those stories again, especially the early days. It's really cool to get to know you even better, Rod, and your history and music and your career. And oh, we did have one question. I just realized that I wanted to get in here. Sorry, one second. This is from Brandy. She says, you are known for both prog and rock drumming. What are some exercise techniques you think every drummer should learn?
Exercise techniques. I think musicians really need to hold their instrument in their hand as many days of their life as possible, you know, perfect being every single day. Even if you don't get, as a drummer, even if you don't get to sit on your drum set, have sticks in your hand every day. Even like I do double duty when I watch TV. I sit on the floor and I will go through all of the rudiments and other things that pop into my head. I think it's really important. That goes back to not knowing when your lucky break or lucky door is going to open with an opportunity. You want to be ready to play. And then when you sit down with your drums to practice, depending on how much time you have, you should be doing an assortment of things, not just sitting down and jamming. I think that's wonderful. That should be part of a practice routine where you close the books, you get the thoughts out of your head and just go to that amazing place that we get to go to when you close your eyes and play. But, you know, there should be specific things that we are working on when we practice. And for those drummers who read, they should be working out of a number of different books that focus on things from, you know, grooves of every kind, beats, drum fills of every kind, thinking dynamically. Many drummers only hit loudly, and if they're not hitting loudly enough, they hit louder. And there's a much bigger range of dynamics in the spectrum to pull from. Playing quietly can be deafening in a good way, you know? So I know, like, you know, go to drum clinics or like events like you put on. And my guess is, and from my, you know, my history of playing at them and being at them, drummer sits down, they go, please welcome, and it's right into
Yeah.
when imagine if it was something more like you know, leave space, use the whole spectrum of dynamics, don't always go in the same direction. Like most, I mean, I used to, you know, do experiments, secret experiments, evil experiments with my students when I, for 20 years, commuted from Long Island to Boston to teach at Berkeley. Um, I would say, all right, let's work on drum fills today. Okay. So, like, what's one of your go-to drum beats? And so the student would go, okay, I like playing, ba, do, 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 ba, ba, do, 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 ba. I say, great. I want you to play your beat for 2 measures and a drum fill for 2 measures, and don't stop until I tell you to stop. And then I would sit there with pen and paper, and then I would jot down information on the 10 drum fills that the student would play. And typically, 7 of the fills or 8 of them start on the snare drum, and then they go around the drum set as a righty player, in a clockwise motion. And then one of them, they might crash the cymbal first, and then maybe it would involve, I don't even know, but the majority of every fill played by every student would be start on the snare and go to the small tom, to the next tom, and end on the floor tom. And so I would stop them and say, okay, that was great, right? You got some great drum fills in there. Now I'm going to give you some parameters to work by. I want you to play your beat for 2 measures, and you have to make your musical statement on your bass drum. You don't even have arms, okay? And they go, like, just on my bass drum. Yeah, let's see what happens on the bass drum, okay? And then, by the time, the 50-minute lesson was up, I have them doing drum fills where you can't start on the snare drum. Start anywhere else but the snare drum. Start on your floor tom, all right? And now you can't even use the snare drum in a drum fill. Be creative using everything else. All right. Now only do your drum fill between the hi-hat, snare, and bass drum. Okay. Now for the first measure of your fill, play it as quietly as you can touch the drums. And in the second measure, hit as hard as you can. So it might be a and then I say, okay, now in the first measure, you can only play quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16ths and 32nd notes. But in the second measure, you can only play triplets and sextuplets. So then it's like, there's an endless number of ways to play drum fills, but most of us, we play the same fill or the same handful of fills over and over and over again. So part of the practice routine should be consciously going out of your way to break your habits. I'm not saying break your habits to never do them again, but I'm just saying, so if this is what your arsenal is, we want to keep expanding it. So, so you're always coming up with a surprise with your listeners.
I love that. Whenever I think about drumming or music in general, it's like numbers. They're infinite. There's no end to the different creativity that you can have when it comes to drumming or anything musical, because there's just no end. You have all these different beats to choose from, all these different time signatures, all these different dynamics, all the things like that. And it's true, man. You're right. And when I think about it, and I even think about seeing other drummers play, everybody is kind of in their little bubble of fills,
Yeah, I totally know. And I include myself. We're all guilty of it at times, for sure, or in one way or another. Also, spend a few minutes playing along with a click. There's no such thing as a rock and roll or R&B or pop recording where you won't have to play along with a click track. And it's good to get comfortable with them, and it will also help your inner clock and develop your sense of time. Very important. I don't buy into, the argument, oh, if you practice with a click, you will become mechanical and sound like a robot. no, you will always be human and you will always be fallible, you know? And so practice with a metronome or a click track
Yeah.
for a portion of your practice time. And then learn grooves from different styles. You know, if you're a rock drummer, like have someone show you or buy a drum book of Afro-Cuban grooves and Brazilian grooves and reggae
Now I
grooves.
feel like we're talking to Stephen Perkins right now.
Oh, okay.
You know?
And
Yeah.
you know, and put on a jazz record
Yeah.
and learn how to swing. And you know, I think, I mean, you know, becoming versatile, it accomplishes more than just, you know, learning to play in different styles of music. It makes you more valuable as a drummer for hire. But beyond that, when you start to have a working knowledge of lots of different things, consciously and unconsciously, the elements from these different styles are going to creep into you, you know, into making you be a one of a kind special drummer, I think. And you know, so like if I hadn't had the jazz background or the fusion background, I might not have been asked to join Winger,
Yeah.
you know. But also, I think it's very important to try to be true to the style of music that you are being asked to play, right? So if you find yourself in like an AC/DC rock setting, do not displace your groove by an eighth note ever. You know, do your homework, listen to AC/DC records and to how the drums sound. And, you know, some of that music doesn't even have a drum fill in it. So don't play a drum fill. You know, it's mostly kick, snare, hat, and crash. Um, and if you find yourself in another situation, uh, you know, utilize some of the other knowledge that you have from having studied some of those other styles. And dynamics should be an important component of everything that you do because most drummers only hit hard. And playing softer really can be very, very effective.
Yeah, that's
And it'll make the loud playing sound that much more exciting and powerful.
I remember I played with a band that I'd never played with before, and they pointed out how I was so dynamic between like verses to chorus and stuff. Even just that simple difference between how you play during a verse versus how you play during a chorus. You know, it's just making those minor adjustments to give it more dynamic that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One other thing, if you're going to do an audition, if possible, get as much information prior to the audition as you can. Because some bands, if they have records or recordings, all they want is for the drumming to sound like their previous drummer, right? So they might want you to just learn the drumming from the recordings. But other bands might want you to bring something else to the party, you know? And unless you know that, you're not going to know exactly what to do. And I'm saying this because I remember when, at the time, this was right after the Rush tour, but before I moved to New York, I auditioned for a band called Zeno, a German band that was in New York auditioning drummers for their new record that was coming out. I need another hour to tell the whole Zeno story, but I got the gig, and then next day or a few days later found myself living in Hanover, Germany, rehearsing with Zeno. But a couple of months into it, I got a phone call that Journey was auditioning drummers because Steve Smith was not going to be doing the tour. This is 1986. And they are auditioning 120 drummers or something. And I was on the list. And so could I come out to San Francisco, you know, learn these 8 songs I was in Germany, so I flew to New York. I didn't own a Journey record, so I went to the record store and bought, the 4 records or cassettes of the 8 songs that I had to learn, and had the day that I was home to learn the 8 songs and then fly to San Francisco to audition, right? So I spent most of the day learning note for note what Steve Smith plays on Don't Stop Believin', right? It's a very one of a kind, unique, really incredible drum track. It's not just pa, right? It's
No,
got
not at all.
offbeat, right. So, okay,
Yeah.
offbeat bell and the snare, but then tom-toms. I was so excited to play that one, So I get to the audition. I walk in the room. There's Steve Perry and the rest of the guys in the band. And I had to turn the drums around left-handed. And then there's Steve Perry. He's not 8 feet away from me. He goes, "What song you want to start with, Rod?" I said, "Don't Stop Believin'." He said, "All right, let's do it." I played it like, not like Steve Smith, but the notes that are on the record, the whatever it was. Finished the song, and Steve Perry says, "That's exactly how Smitty played it. Now you played how you would play it. 1, 2, 3, 4." Okay, so like I'm jet lagged because I'm on German time, which is like 8 or 9 hours difference from San Francisco. And I just spent the day before learning the album.
Drilling it into your head. Yeah. Yeah.
And like on the spot, he said, "Don't do that, play how you." So I don't know what I did. And then I did the few others. I wasn't one of the guys, I wasn't the guy that got the gig. They said very nice things, but they probably said very nice things to everybody. To say, "Oh, you're in the top, whatever, blah, blah, blah."
Could you imagine how things would be different if you had gotten that? That's nuts.
Nuts. But again, this was, 12 years in or whatever. I had just done the Rush tour with the Steve Morse band, and now was rehearsing in Hanover with a rock band.
Wow. Yeah.
For a few weeks, and then now go do the Journey. This was really interesting. Some months later, as I was like running through the Atlanta airport, I crossed paths with the drummer Larry London, who was the drummer on the album, on the Journey album that they were auditioning drummers for. And we were running past each other. He said, "Hey, Rod, I just want you to know, I recommended you to audition for Journey." I said, "Thank you so much. Why aren't you doing it? You did the album." And it had to do with money. He was making so much money as a first call studio guy in Nashville. He was one of those triple scale.
Right.
Working from morning till night. And he said, Journey couldn't offer me enough money to make it worth my while to leave Nashville.
It didn't make sense anymore. Yeah. I've heard that from a few people in different related gigs. But wow, man, that's so crazy. Like I said, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this over again afterwards, because we covered so much ground, man.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I am going to have to cut us off here tonight, though. It's rounded up around 10 o'clock. I know it's 11 where you are. It's like, what the hell are you doing, Rod? Party animal.
I have to go practice.
Yeah, go practice, man. I can't thank you enough for being on the show tonight, Rod. It's been a long time coming, and it's so good to catch up with you and have all the folks watching tonight and getting to hear all these different sides of your life story. Just very, very cool. I'm so grateful to have met you, and can't wait to chat again soon.
Yeah, this was awesome, April. You're a fantastic interviewer.
Oh, well, thanks, man.
and I can't wait to see you next time, wherever we cross paths. And I hope your festival is a smash, as it always is.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Go practice, and I'm going to practice too.
Right on.
All right, take care, my friend. Have a great evening.
Bye.
See you later. Bye. All right, everybody, give it up. Mr. Rod Morgenstein in the house. Winger Dixie Dregs lost his wife to breast cancer many years ago, and just telling his life story there. If you joined late, please be sure to watch the replay. It'll be on Facebook and YouTube. A few other channels you can watch it on as well. So be sure to check that out. I want to give a big shout out of thanks to Izzy, our producer of the show, who helped put this whole thing on tonight and make it much easier on me. So I'm super grateful for that. And again, guys, check out drumathon.org, register to fundraise, and help us raise funds to fight breast cancer through mammograms, research and trials, and financial assistance for breast cancer treatment. You guys have yourself a great night, and we will see you next month. Who's our guest next month? Do you remember? Do you know who our guest is next month? See, we don't remember right now, but there's somebody great. Trust us on that one. So be sure to tune in. It is the third Tuesday of every month, and we'll be back here next month with our next guest and also our survivor in the house. So be sure and check that out. We will see you guys really soon. Thanks for joining.